I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Rams defensive lineman Aaron Donald retires today after 10 years in the NFL. Donald, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time first-team All-Pro, and Defensive Rookie of the Year after the Rams drafted him in 2014. He's the all-time franchise leader in sacks with 111. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports defensive lineman Josh Sweat will stay with the Eagles on a restructured deal worth $10 million guaranteed. Champ Week continues. Coverage of the ACC and Big 12 semifinals starting at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, including number 1 Houston against Texas Tech. Cougars coach Kelvin Sampson's team is 29-3.
It's been a challenge. So many great coaches, so many great home court advantages, so many fan bases that are passionate about their teams, and playing 18 games has just been it's a gauntlet. It's every night you could lose.
Kelvin Sampson, 9 FBS conferences and Notre Dame agreed to the next college football playoff contract starting in 2026.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty. Before you fill out your brackets, make sure you tune into the Tournament Challenge Marathon for all of the info you need right here on Unsportsmanlike, weekday mornings, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
And welcome into a Friday edition of After Further Review. Musso in for Moscona, Grant Lanero and Paul O'Neill along for the ride as well. Man, what a Friday. It turned into a really, really newsy day, especially in the NFL. And the Saints bringing in more players. Aaron Donald retires. The Vikings strike our first draft trade with the Texans. Looks like they're going to be moving up most likely. At least they have a path to do that now. And then on top of all that, you have the action that's going to happen tonight. LSU opens up SEC play in Starkville, Mississippi. We're less than 3 hours away from first pitch in that one, weather permitting. But it looks like the weather's going to cooperate in Starkville, so that's a great thing. Obviously, we'll get a lineup at some point throughout the show here today. Todd Walker's going to join us in the third hour and preview opening weekend as a whole in the Southeastern Conference. Jake Madison, man, the Pels have a big one tonight versus the Los Angeles Clippers in the blender. Jake Madison will be here at 4 o'clock to talk about that one. And then we're going to talk some LSU football with Bryce Koon at 4:15. So we have a bunch to do today, and I am fired up to get to it. And let's start where we do every single day with reminding you about Bud Light.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
All right, so we'll start with the New Orleans Saints for the fourth day in a row here. I guess it was late last night. The New Orleans Saints signed wide receiver Cedrick Wilson, veteran player. And you look at Wilson, this will be... clear that pop-up. You look at Wilson, this will be his third team in the NFL, and he'll be entering his sixth season in the league as well. Was drafted by the Cowboys in 2019 and enjoyed his most success in Dallas through his first 3 years. 2021, his last year with the Cowboys, was obviously the one that everybody's been referencing most today. 45 receptions, 602 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, when you go through and you look at his production so far in his 5 years in the league, that year sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, that is That is by far his highest production year. So, I mean, I think when you look at it from that way, from that angle, I should say, it's not going to blow you away from a signing perspective. But this is a guy who's still in his late 20s, so you have that going for you a little bit. And he checks a bunch of other boxes. Number one, familiarity with the offense that the Saints are going to be running this year. I mean, this is a guy who spent the last 2 seasons in Miami with Mike McDaniel, who is obviously from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. So that's a big, giant check mark and permanent marker right next to why it'd be a good reason to bring in a guy like Cedrick Wilson. Another thing, he can play all 3 wide receiver positions. We mentioned the big season in Dallas. The large majority of his time with the Cowboys was spent in the slot. When he moved on to Miami is when they kicked him back outside. But you have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle kind of swallowing up the majority of the targets there in Miami. So there's not going to be a lot to go around for him. Still, 296 yards and 3 scores in his final year with the Dolphins is productive. But that's still a big check mark. Positional versatility. You always want that in the Saints, especially always want that. You've seen them been able to move different guys all around, both on offense and defense, really throughout the last decade plus down there in New Orleans. So that's something obviously to like as well. And I'll go back to the familiarity with the system, because that's what you're going to need to surround everybody else with on this team, because Derek Carr doesn't have that. He's going to be learning a new offense for the second year in a row now. The more guys you can surround him with that are familiar with what you're going to be doing, obviously, the better. And that's just one giant reason to love Cedrick Wilson on top of everything else. So I'm very intrigued to see how he fits in with the New Orleans Saints. It's a 2-year deal. When you look at, they didn't announce any other terms outside of the 2 years, but I mean, when you go back and you look at his 2 seasons in Miami, in 2022, he made $7.7 million. Last season, $5 million. So maybe it'll be somewhere in between there for him. I mean, I can't really imagine them going over $7 million a year. It might even be less than that. Maybe it's going to be 5. We'll see when they officially release the rest of the terms on the contract. But they did officially announce the move. So that's huge. The other thing it does, so you have familiarity with the system, versatility at the wide receiver position. The third and final big check mark is it just begins to fill a giant position of need for the New Orleans Saints. Do y'all realize the Saints came into free agency with 3 wide receivers on the roster? That's it, 3. I mean, they are no strangers to carrying double-digit wide receivers into training camp. They had 3 going into free agency. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry. You needed to start making headway at that position, and this move obviously does that. Now, they're not done, as evidenced by them adding Stanley Morgan later in the day, which we'll get to, but that still just puts you at 6. You look at options that are still out there for New Orleans to add in free agency, and of course, I think we all expect them to draft a wide receiver as well. They are far from done here. But it just gets them on the track now. The train has left the station. They're chugging along down the track as to rebuilding this wide receiver position. I mean, you have I think something that could be interesting to see is a guy like Keith Kirkwood, who spent a large majority of his time in New Orleans as a free agent. Is that somebody they potentially bring back later down the road? Maybe that's a possibility. Hunter Renfrow is a name that everybody's going to continue to throw out there. I think whenever you saw Saints sign a receiver in free agency, you were surprised it wasn't Hunter Renfrow yet. But that's obvious with the familiarity with Derek Carr. Not so much with the offense, but with Derek Carr, that's a huge positive there. So there's still plenty of names that they're going to go after. And like I said, I think we all expect them to draft a wide receiver as well. So you're at 6 now. Let's talk a brief moment about Stanley Morgan. New Orleans native, prepped at St. Aug. That's obviously a great tie that everybody's gonna love, and you should. And that's something you've really seen the Saints do here recently is bring back guys not only from the state of Louisiana, but from the city of New Orleans, which is, I mean, it's fantastic. You love the home. I mean, this team has such a connection with the city. You love when you can get hometown guys there. Morgan, undrafted out of Nebraska, spent 5 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, played in 51 games. Where he provides a lot of value and where you can actually see him making this team out of camp potentially, where I think most of you, when I said Stanley Morgan, go who, is special teams. I mean, this guy was a special teams ace in his time with Cincinnati. I mean, only 5 receptions for 29 yards in his career in 5 years. But if you look at those 5-year breakdowns, 58% of his snaps in 2019 were on special teams. The rest of his time in Cincinnati, his special teams stats did not go below 63%. 65% in 2020, 66% in 2021, 66% again in 22, and 63% last season. So he was up and down from the practice squad to the active roster, but when he was there, he made a massive, massive impact for the Bengals on special teams. So that is definitely an area for him that you could see and provides depth at wide receiver. He'll compete for a depth spot there. So looking at it from the Saints perspective, the 2 wide receivers they brought in today in Cedrick Wilson and then Stanley Morgan, you have to like it. I mean, you get the depth piece in special teams with Morgan, and you get a guy who should be able to contribute just based off the versatility and familiarity with the offense in Cedrick Wilson. How much he contributes, that remains to be seen. And like we said, they are far, far, far from done with this position. Came in with 3, now stand at 6. Who's next? That's the next question. And I think it will be a mix between free agency and the draft for the New Orleans Saints. One more note to kind of just wedge in here. Nick Underhill had the report earlier today. The Saints had to reschedule their visit with Chase Young. That was set to be today, and somebody had commented on one of Nick's posts and asked for an update, and all Nick responded with was visit rescheduled. So we don't know for when, we don't know the reason why, but Nick Underhill confirming that the Saints' scheduled visit with Chase Young is now rescheduled. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic there. They seem to be legitimate contenders. I think it would be a really good signing. I know the injury history and whatnot, but you're looking at a guy that if he can stay healthy, he's entering the prime years of his career, and he's very talented. So the more we know about that, we will pass it along when we know. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. It's a Friday edition of AFR presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar. Musso in for Moscona. Scone is back on Monday. His New York trip is winding down here this week. So he'll be back with us on Monday, but I'm here for the rest of the day here with you here. And it's been a great week so far as well. When we come back, news from the college football playoff. They finally have decided on their revenue model, and it is really, really good news if you're a fan of the SEC or the Big Ten. We'll talk about it when we return here on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about Rouse's. Rouse's is the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints, and of course, with it being Lent, a lot of people are looking for seafood options on Fridays in Lent. I got great news for you. They just had a price drop on crawfish by full $2 a pound. So the crawfish aren't $2 a pound, but they dropped by $2 a pound. Live crawfish over at Rouse's, $5.99, and boiled if you're getting more than 10 pounds, $7.29 a pound. If you're getting them fewer than 10 pounds, it's $7.49 a pound over at Rouse's. The official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints is Rouse's. You can go to rouses.com. You can follow them on all their social media. Remember, if it is the boiled crawfish, if it's catfish fillets, if it's boiled shrimp, they have grab-and-go options at their hot and boiled kiosk at Rouse's. Just walk in, go to the left, you'll see the seafood department and the hot and boiled kiosks over at Rouse's. Rouses.com. Rouse's. This feels like home.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by South Point Volkswagen. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, look no further than South Point Volkswagen, or should I say at least put Volkswagen on your list. If you've never driven a Volkswagen, never thought about a Volkswagen, 9 different IIHS top safety picks. That's the highest safety designation you can get. And you drive knowing you have the security of one of the safest vehicles on the road. They're so fun to drive. The great German engineering without the cost of other luxury brands. And they're built right here in the US of A at their Chattanooga, Tennessee plant. So you're supporting American jobs as well. South Point Volkswagen, Louisiana's largest volume Volkswagen dealer on Airline just north of Highland, online at southpointvw.com.
All right. So we've been waiting for this news to be official for a really long time. For ESPN and the College Football Playoff to agree and come to terms on a new revenue agreement to keep the playoff, being broadcast by ESPN, a new media rights deal for a very long time. Like, we've known it's up after 2025 forever. And you had negotiations or talks start, commissioners going back and forth on a lot of different topics. Then in the middle of that, you have the expanded playoff to 12 teams go into effect before this current TV deal ends. Like, remember when the conversation was you'll expand the playoff when it comes time to, re-up the TV contract? And all in the middle of that gets moved up by 2 years. Thank goodness, by the way. Like, that's a very good thing. I think we've all come to realize that. So you'll have, the 12-team, 5-7 model this year and in 2025. And then, that'll carry out with this existing TV contract, and then you'll roll over. So after you had that established, it's okay. Let's get the revenue and everything in order for the new TV contract. And you're going back and forth on that. And, in the midst, the SEC and the Big Ten have really seized control of this entire process, which, depending on where you live and what team you root for, is a great thing. For all of us here, that's a great thing, and we're about to get into why it's going to benefit LSU and 33 other teams greatly. And it's they're going to be a part of the future of college football wherever it goes. So for us, great thing. But as the SEC and the Big Ten continued to seize control, obviously it starts to skew towards them, and that's also a good thing for all of us here. We had Ross Dellinger on the show a week ago today to really talk about this, because you could see they were starting to near the finish line, and the proposal that was on the table had the SEC and the Big Ten taking 58% of the revenue. And you were getting pushback from the ACC, from the Big 12 specifically, but the writing was also on the wall that eventually they were going to fall in line. And today they did, and it was made official. It is now not the SEC, the College Football Playoff and ESPN, the new media rights deal. You are looking at a 6-year deal worth $1.3 billion. So you finish out these 2 years, and then a new 6-year deal starts worth $1.3 billion, which is significantly more than the previous deal. The previous deal, for what it's worth, was in the $400 million. So this is about 3 times the previous deal, which is great. And it was passed. So you look at the SEC, you look at the Big Ten, they're getting 58% of the revenue, 29% for each. That's going to average out to about 21, in between 21 and 23 million per school. When you go after that, the next highest payout for a school is Notre Dame at $12.5 million. And then you have the ACC and the Big 12 probably settling around 13. In between 12 and 14 is what Ross Dellinger is reporting. And then the group of 5 is going to be less than $2 million, somewhere around 1.8. I think in Ross's full write-up at Yahoo Sports, it came out to 1.8, up from 1.5 for the group of 5. So when you break it down, percentages, 58% to the SEC and the Big Ten, 32% to the ACC and the Big 12, 17%, and then the final 10% to Notre Dame in the group of 5. But Notre Dame's obviously going to be higher than even the ACC and the Pac-12. And Notre Dame also, in the independents, there's one other thing to pass along there. It is a $6 million flat fee if they make the college football playoff. Everybody else has waived that now. They give that up. And the SEC, the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, they've lost their bowl tie-ins as well. So there's no more of just the automatic, Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, which to be expected with the expanded playoff. We knew that was coming anyway. This just makes that official. Now, you might be asking yourself, and you kind of should be, why would the ACC and the Big 12 and the group of 5 and everybody agree to this? Well, the group of 5, easy. They didn't really have a choice. Mike Oresco from the American did his damnedest to garner support, and nobody would follow him because why would you? You wouldn't, and nobody did. But the ACC and the Big 12 looked at this and said, okay, we want some protection, we want some provisions. And it should also be noted the revenue distribution model was largely based on the historic success in the playoff over the previous decade, which is another reason why you might be asking yourself, why is Notre Dame getting more than the Big 12 and the ACC? Well, that's part of the reason. They've made a couple appearances, which is right on par with when you look at it. The Big 12, going into 2024 now with realignment, only has 2 teams in their league that have made the college football playoff. And TCU's the only one that did it in the Big 12. Notre Dame's got that many by themselves. and you add in the historical significance of their program, and that helps them. But the SEC and the Big Ten have accounted for 72.5% of college football playoff participants over the last decade, and now you add in, and it's adding in Oklahoma and Texas to the league. What kept the ACC there is Clemson. And there's 7 participants, and also 1 for Notre Dame in 2020 when they were a league member. So they wanted, obviously, some protections. One of those, and this is actually kind of what I find humorous about this, is the contract is expected to include what they're calling a look-in provision in 2028. So when you get to 2028, they'll take a look back at, the success of conferences in the 12-team playoff. How many teams were these leagues getting in, and they can redistribute revenue based off of that. It can be reevaluated, maybe I should say. That's the way everyone's kind of termed it today. And the look-in provision can also be triggered early by any conference realignment. And that's the part I find humorous. Because doesn't it feel like the next wave of conference realignment that's actually going to trigger this to where it would be meaningful to really need to redistribute and reevaluate the revenue is going to be teams leaving their respective conferences to come to the SEC and the Big Ten? So really, if you think about it that way, it's only going to strengthen and get more and gain more money for the SEC and the Big Ten. I mean, y'all, an American team making the playoff and then, making the playoff and then maybe moving to the ACC, is that really going to cause some seismic shift in this the way Florida State finally getting their wish and leaving the ACC for the SEC would? No, of course not. It just wouldn't. So, I mean, they're hitching themselves to that. Like, okay, if we can maybe gain more teams, we can get this reevaluated and looked at again. But who else is really out there from a brand perspective that's going to cause some seismic shift in this by joining the ACC or the Big 12? I mean, the Big 12, outside of the Big 10, is the one who reaped the benefit of the Pac-12 dissipating. I mean, you gained really good programs out of the Pac-12, especially in Utah. You get the Arizona State rivalry, I mean, all of that, and that did nothing for them here. They're getting $13 million out of this. Who else are they going to add? So, I mean, if they want to look at that and say, okay, that's a good protection, a good provision for us, then fine. But the conference realignment that's probably actually going to drive revenue change in the college football playoff is going to be teams leaving their respective leagues to join the SEC and the Big Ten. They're only going to continue to get more powerful. And like I said, for everybody here, that's a really good thing because you're part of that. I mean, are you happy that LSU is going to get an extra $22 million a year? And that's going to help push them ahead, you would think, of programs like Florida State, like Clemson, like Notre Dame, because you're doubling up their revenue, sometimes more than doubling up their revenue. Yeah, that's fantastic. The other big part of this is, and it's not decided yet, but when the new TV contract starts, it's expected that the playoff will expand again and go to 14 teams. The model is what they have to really decide now, but they wanted to get the revenue out of the way for all the reasons we've talked about here for weeks with NIL and potential revenue sharing and all of that. And that's noted in each one of these articles. But there's 3 different proposals for the model, the format, I guess I should say, of the 14-team model that is expected to take hold in 2026 when this TV deal starts. One of them is 5+9, which is a mirror of what you have now with 5+7. Highest ranked 5 conference champions, automatic bid, 9 at large. That makes the most, sense logically, and ultimately, I think that is what most conferences, well, at least ACC, Big 12, and group of 5, they'd want that. But this is college football. You can't ever do things logically. So there's also a 3-3-2-2-1+3 model, which has really been tabled because it involves the SEC and the Big Ten getting 3 automatic bids. But the Big 12 and the ACC would get 2 in that, and then you'd have the 1 automatic, the highest ranked group of 5 would get the 1 automatic, and then 3 at large. But like I said, that one's at least, Ross's said that one's kind of been tabled because of the first round buys that would all exclusively go to the SEC and the Big Ten in that one. The other one that's under consideration is a 2-2-1-1-1+7 model. 2 automatic berths to the SEC and the Big Ten, 1 each to the ACC, Big 12, 1 to the highest ranked group of 5, and then your 7 at large spot. So, I mean, look, they're not going to do the easy thing here. Probably they have 2 years to fight over this and decide which one. The easiest way, obviously, would be the 5+9, but it's college football. They never do things the easiest way. So that's your update. To put it in the simplest terms, new deal, 6 years, $1.3 billion in total. The SEC and the Big Ten are taking all the money, getting 58% combined, 29% each, while the ACC, the Big 12, the Group of 5, and Notre Dame bring up the rear. So that's where you are right now. We'll chug along towards what looks like a 14-team playoff, and I'm sure after that it'll go to 16 and probably 18 and 20 until, I guess, just about everybody's going to make the playoff, where that's not even going to be looked at as the benchmark of success. A playoff appearance won't be that. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. You'll just move the bar. It's going to continue to grow. Money's going to continue, to just be greater, and that's where you'll end up. But for now, that's where you are, and I'm ready to watch it actually play out on the field. So we're not far from that. Spring practice is happening all over the place, and I just ready for it to be here. It's going to be awesome to see a 12-team playoff. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. We'll go around the SEC. Brian Kelly's added a staffer as well. We'll talk about that next here on AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by River City's 1 Hour Air, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. 752-0001, 752-0001, where they're always on time or you don't pay a dime. I love sharing 5-star Google reviews. Here's one from Ricky Gomez, who said Chris, his technician, was very professional and knowledgeable during the HVAC evaluation. He provided details and recommendations in a clear and concise manner. That's one of the things that always stands out. If you're having an issue with your AC or your heater, and River City's 1 Hour Air sends out a technician for an evaluation, they're going to explain your options to you. And that may sound simple, but none of it, I don't know anything about an HVAC, neither do you. Let's be honest. So whenever they go get up in your attic or they go look at your HVAC unit on the side of your house and they come talk to you, they're going to explain very clearly what's happening and your options to remedy it. It's River City's 1 Hour Air. Look for the big yellow vans and trucks with the giant clock on the side. 752-0001.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off the new 23 Ram 1500 SCA truck. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $22,500 off the new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer day.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Remind you about Michelli Weighing and Measurement, Michelli.com with 30 offices across 11 different states. If you weigh or measure something, Michelli sells, services, rents the products used to weigh and measure. No matter where you are, you can ship your precision measurement devices to Michelli, and they'll calibrate them for you, send them back, or they'll just come to your office, pick them up, and bring them back. They can also do on-site calibration. If you have equipment that can't leave or you don't want it to leave, they can come do on-site calibrations as well with their mobile calibration labs. It's Michelli Weighing and Measurement, online at Michelli.com. Louisiana-born, Louisiana-owned and operated for 76 years. They've continued to grow, expand their footprint while maintaining that local ownership, local feel, handshake deals, face-to-face sales. It's Michelli Weighing and Measurement. They're also hiring. Check out the careers tab at Michelli.com. Again, online at Michelli.com, Michelli.com.
Brian Kelly is set to hire a former LSU Tiger to his staff. That is former Tiger defensive lineman Jamari Orasco. A long time since anybody here has heard that name, yeah? I mean, when I saw it, I was like, wow, Jamari Orasco. How about that? Of course, former defensive end for LSU, played 50 games in his LSU career, including starting 9 as a true freshman. Was a pretty productive player. Credit Football Scoop with the report, and now he'll be back. So going to be a defensive analyst on Brian Kelly's staff. For reference, Rascos has spent 5 years as an analyst in an analyst role at Arizona, and then after those 5 years, spent the last 2 seasons at ULL as the Cajuns' director of player development. So a little bit of a track record there here in this type of role, and now we'll do it at LSU. And look, any help on the defensive side of the ball, I think all of us are here for that. I know I am. Any type of help. I don't care if it's just, somebody to go grab coffee for Blake Baker. Granted, Jamari Orasco is going to do more than that. And he probably won't even do that. But you know what I mean? I mean, anybody, bring them on. Because you avoid what happened last year at all costs. And for what it's worth, you've done great work at getting there, right, by canning the entire staff and bringing in new players and whatnot. But the other reason I like this, too, is I would imagine he'll be able to lend at least some help on the defensive line as well. Maybe not on-field coaching or whatnot in an analyst role, but some other help there, too, which is great. Because the one thing LSU, first off, you need more numbers there if you're the Tigers. But consistency is just going to be important because you just haven't had any. I mean, the turnover at defensive line coach has been crazy. Obviously, you get Bo Davis in the boat now, and that's great. It's been a long pursuit of him, but you got him. You bring in Kevin Peoples as well. So I mean, you're really honing in there, and I would imagine this adds a little something to that as well. So look, man, here for, again, like I said, any type of help you can add to the defensive side of the ball at LSU. Sign me up. And like I said, I'm sure sign most of y'all up too. And it's great that it's a former Tiger, man. That's awesome. That's awesome to see. So former LSU defensive lineman Jamari Orasco, now a member, or set to be a member, I should say, of Brian Kelly's staff as a defensive analyst. All right. It's about that time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference. The Ole Miss Rebels.
Ole Miss is expected to hire SMU's Alex Brown for a high-ranking personnel and recruiting role. This according to Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports. Brown has been at SMU as the general manager and senior director of scouting and player personnel. He was a key part of roster construction that contributed to the Mustangs improving from 7 wins in 2022 to 11 wins last season in 2023. Now will join Lane Kiffin's staff as Ole Miss continues to just go all in for 2024.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Arkansas cornerback Quincy McAdoo has officially confirmed his medical retirement from football. Earlier in January, it was revealed that he would need to hang his cleats up, but now the 6'2" sophomore wide receiver and defensive back, I should say wide receiver turned defensive back, has officially addressed it and penned a heartfelt message to Razorback Nation. Only played his freshman season at Arkansas in 2022. A former 3-star recruit and an Arkansas native, was quite impressive in that freshman season, though 30 total tackles, was second on the team in interceptions, only behind Dwight McGlothern, and added a sack and 4 passes defended. Now we'll go to the next chapter of his life.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
And a basketball note here for the Gamecocks. Colin Murray Boyles will return to South Carolina next season. Announced that officially to the state after a 24-point performance in South Carolina's 80-66 win over Arkansas in the SEC tournament. A 6'7" player in his freshman year averaged 10-5 for the Gamecocks, including a career-high 31-point performance against Vanderbilt on February 10th. So a big piece coming back for South Carolina. And let's get you caught up on the SEC tournament, shall we? We know LSU yesterday afternoon lost to Mississippi State 70-60. We just mentioned South Carolina's 80-66 win over Arkansas, ending the Hogs season. It was Texas A&M over Ole Miss 80-71. That's pretty good actually for LSU when you look at NIT bid. We'll explain. And Florida in the nightcap defeated Georgia 85-80. Action going on in Nashville right now. Auburn is up big on South Carolina, 46-26. That game is at the half. Texas A&M faces Kentucky at 6 p.m. Well, it's a tournament, allegedly, at 6 p.m. Florida at number 19, Alabama, will follow that. And earlier today, Mississippi State upset number 5, Tennessee, 73-56. So a few of those results that we went in, that's around the SEC. A few of the results we kind of just ran through there help LSU out tremendously. Texas A&M, obviously, winning their game yesterday to advance in the SEC tournament is big. They knock off Ole Miss. So it was really LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M kind of right there looking at NIT. You were hoping that A&M could sneak into the NCAA tournament on the bubble, which they beat Ole Miss. That's big. If they can knock off Kentucky, that's going to solidify it for you there. And Mississippi State winning 2 games, they're in. So that's good news. So it really is right now, does A&M sneak in? And if they do, LSU and Ole Miss are likely to get the automatic bids into the NIT off their net ranking. And that'll also be a host for LSU as well. They'll get to host their first round game in the NIT, which I think would be great. It's get you another game in the PMAC, and attendance really started to increase throughout the season as they started to play better. And you get a postseason game there. That's obviously a huge a huge plus. So, LSU's last trip to the NIT, they hosted ULL, and Will Wade stuffed Bob Marlin in a locker, and it was a really awesome atmosphere in the PMAC there. So if you could potentially replicate that kind of stuff, that'd be great. So LSU looks good right now for the NIT, but as hard as it might be for some of you, root for Texas A&M tonight. You want them to beat Kentucky, and that will lock them into the NCAA tournament, you would think, and probably lock LSU into an automatic bid into the NIT, where we'd find out who they played. We talked with Matthew Bruni from On 3 yesterday, and he threw out a couple teams. One of them Syracuse, which that'd be a rematch from your trip up there earlier in the year, and it didn't go well for you. So maybe some potential for revenge there. It's a possible opponent, so that'd be great to see. All right, we're gonna wrap up hour number 1. Boy, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Friday, y'all. It's Friday for all of us. Wrap up hour number 1 of AFR next. Got some LSU football conversation coming up in the next segment. In the next hour. Bryce Koon from 247 Sports will join us. We'll kind of run through spring practice a little bit as the Tigers. They've been off all week on spring break, but they're set to hit the practice field again on Monday. What do we want to see when they do that? So we'll do that in the next segment. Hour number 1 closes out next, though, here on a Friday, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Brought to you by Darren James and Associates, brokered by LPT Realty. That's right. Darren James has launched a new group, LPT Realty, which will give so many expanded resources to you, the homeowner, as you're selling your home. Darren James will have increased access to communication and so many other resources to help sell your home for the highest dollar possible. So you're matching and marrying here the number 1 realtor in the state of Louisiana. Wall Street Journal's list the top 1% of realtors in America, and a new company that's growing at an exponential rate that's going to give you expanded resources. I want to also mention, if you are a realtor or are thinking about getting your realtor's license, you need to call Darren James and learn about LPT Realty. Their structure and how they're allowing the realtor to keep more commissions is something that could change your life. Darren James.
Think real estate, think Darren James.
He's here. Anyone want a Coors Light?
Oh shoot, I forgot to play the song. I got a guy who can fix this.
Bayou Ford has $7,500 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks. $7,500 off plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Quick reminder about Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. They're the best. If you are, gentlemen, thinking about popping the question and you're thinking about where am I going to go buy that diamond, I want you to consider this. There are places that will sell you man-made lab diamonds, but what are you buying? It's according to its makeup and characteristics, sure, diamond. But is it going to hold its value? Like, is that the way you want to say, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you? Go to Lee Michaels. Go to Lee Michaels. Walk in the door. Experience the thing I talk about all the time, which is the Lee Michaels experience. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry with 10 locations. Baton Rouge, 2 locations in Baton Rouge. New Orleans, Lafayette, Shreveport, Mississippi, Texas as well. 10 locations across 3 states. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. Thrill her, gentlemen. Thrill her with a gift in the red box from Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry.
All right, well, we have a few minutes here to close out hour number 1. Thought I'd pass this along. I found it very interesting. Credit Mike Triplett over at NewOrleans.football. So you'll remember when, I guess this would have been on Tuesday or Wednesday. It was Wednesday. This would have been on Wednesday. New league year started, and that was when the Saints had to get under the salary cap. They had to be within full cap compliance. And Ryan Ramczyk, they had restructure, sure, we'll call it that, the contract, but it wasn't like their normal restructure. It wasn't just the way they normally go about it. And we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, but we didn't have all the details of the contract. Now we do. And again, credit to Mike Triplett over at NewOrleans.football. He kind of posted the details of Ryan Ramczyk's new contract and the summary of it. Ramczyk took a significant pay cut. Like from $17 million to $6.5 million. A $1.2 million base salary and then a $5.29 million signing bonus to make that up. But from $17 million to $6.5 million. Triplett noted he wasn't sure, or was waiting to see, I should say, if there were some incentives that were going to be added, but they weren't. But those aren't factored into your cap number anyway. And with that pay cut, with that whole restructure, the cap hit for Ramczyk dropped from $27 million to $12.3. The other thing to pass along here that Mike notes is, for now, the final 2 years of Ramczyk's contract remain untouched. So he's due $18 million in 25, $19 million in 26. Neither of those numbers are guaranteed. And we had really talked a lot about how the Saints would go about doing this because of the health issues that Ramczyk is suffering from now with his knee and having the procedure done, missing the final 5 games of the 2023 season. How are you going to restructure that? Because it was one of the biggest cap hits. I mean, you could see $27 million. Like, it was one of the biggest ones you had to restructure. You had to lessen that. How are you going to do it without committing yourself to him longer term, not knowing the health wise? And that's how you do it. He agrees to take the pay cut. You leave the other 2 years untouched for now. You see how things go in 2024, and you approach that bridge when you get to it. And you cross that bridge when you get to it, I should say. And that's appears like what the Saints are going to do. So, look, I've said it a couple times this week. I'll say it again. I hope Ryan Ramczyk is the clean bill of health, and the confidence they're showing in him right now is rewarded, because when he's right, he is still a very good right tackle in the NFL. He's maybe not to the level that he was, where he was the best right tackle in the NFL, but he still can be a stalwart on your line if he's good. and healthy is what I mean. But cartilage in your knee is not just going to all of a sudden stop deteriorating. So we will see. The other thing to pass along that Triplett noted was another significant pay cut, and that was to James Hurst along your offensive line. He was previously scheduled to earn $1.75 million in bonuses on top of a $3 million salary. That brings you to $4.75 million in earnings. Now it is $2.71. He agreed to a vet minimum salary at $1.21 plus what they're terming an escalator bonus of $1.5 million. So that's how you get there. So basically, and his salary was cut in half. So look, credit to those guys for doing that. And that obviously helps the Saints. And I guess you go forward right now, especially with Andrews Pete being a free agent with James Hurst as your left tackle, and we'll see what they do in the draft. Hopefully they draft a franchise offensive tackle. That's my preference. That's been a lot of people's preference. I don't think that's going to change. But those two guys, Ramczyk and Hurst, we now have the details, and both of them took significant pay cuts. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. Sports Center will lead you off, national headlines, and then, boy, is there a massive game in the blender tonight for the Pelicans. We're going to get you a full preview of that as they welcome in the Clippers. Jake Madison from Locked On Pels joins the show next to kick off hour number 2 of AFR.
AFR.
Brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. You know, when we talk about Relief Windows every day, I always say windows, doors, siding. And now shutters as well. They do your indoor shutters. Same thing as the windows. Custom made, measured to fit your windows, custom fit for your windows, lifetime warranty on your windows, your shutters. But Brandon, you often hear say their number one product is customer satisfaction. And that's not just a catchy line. That's not a cliche phrase. Have an experience with Relief Windows and you'll understand. They go to the ends of the earth to make sure their customers are thrilled with the work they do. As a matter of fact, Relief Windows never takes $1 from you. You will not, no deposit, no down payment. They take all the risk. They will not take $1 until you're thrilled with the work they do. Who else does that? Only Relief Windows. Check them out online at ReliefWindows.com.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
It's the details that make the difference between good enough and simply the best. At Skag Power Equipment, the difference is in designing lawnmowers with your convenience and comfort in mind. At Skag, we believe that quality and substance matter, and that you'll appreciate the attention to detail and craftsmanship we put into every single product. Thick steel and heavy-duty components provide you with unmatched reliability and performance. Skag, simply the best.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
I'm Doug Brown. After 10 years in the NFL, all of them with the Rams, defensive lineman Aaron Donald announces his retirement on social media today. ESPN's Sam Acho.
Aaron Donald has that physical freak specimen talent, but also it translates to the field, and that's what's been amazing to see. You see him double team, triple team. Like, I've played against him. It's like one of those things where it's like, okay, like, I don't know what our offense is going to do when we go against this dude.
Sam Acho on Carlin versus Joe. Rams coach Sean McVay calls Donald an elite competitor and an exceptional teammate. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Eagles get quarterback Kenny Pickett and a fourth-round pick in a trade with the Steelers. Pittsburgh gets a third-rounder and 2 seventh-rounders. Selection Sunday just 2 days away. The SEC quarterfinals underway right now on ESPN. Auburn leading South Carolina 46-29 early in the second half. Earlier today, Mississippi State knocks off 5th-ranked Tennessee 73-56. The Bulldogs will go to the semifinals for the first time since 2010.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Caney. Before you fill out your brackets, make sure you tune into the Tournament Challenge Marathon for all of the info you need right here on Unsportsmanlike. Weekday mornings, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
Let's ride.
And welcome in hour number 2 after further review here on a Friday. Musso in for Moscona, Grant Lanero, Paul O'Neill along for the ride. Glad you are with us as well. We still have a ton to get to on a day where LSU opens up conference play in baseball on the road in Starkville. We haven't even really touched it. We have a lot to get to there. Todd Walker will be with us at 5:15 to preview the weekend as a whole in Southeastern Conference play. We'll talk some LSU football in the next segment with Bryce Koon from 247. But tonight, 7 p.m., Smoothie King Center, really big game for the New Orleans Pelicans. They welcome in the Los Angeles Clippers. The final game in the regular season series between the two. The Pels just 3 games behind the Clippers for the 4 seed in the West. And Pels are playing some pretty good basketball. They lost the game against Cleveland. But overall, when you look at their stretch, you had that 3-game sweep of the road trip. You've won 4 of your last 5. They look like they're playing good ball. Jake Madison, Locked On Pels, good enough to join us now to preview tonight's game. Jake, welcome aboard. We appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on to talk some hoops.
Absolutely, man. This is a pretty exciting game, I feel like, to get hyped for. I mean, you've got, and most of the star powers playing. We can get to what might happen with James Harden here momentarily, but this feels like a massive opportunity for New Orleans tonight.
Yeah, that's because it is, right? This is the team they're chasing in the standings here. They're trying to maybe get home court advantage in the first round. They're currently in the 5th spot. The Clippers are in the 4th seed. They're 3 games behind. You know, this late in the season, these games really matter. And if you win this one, you move to 2 games back. It's not a half-game increase. It's a full-game increase. And that puts pressure on the Los Angeles Clippers. And that's not something they've particularly handled well over the past couple of years. And this is a team that often wants to rest their guys. They're not going to be able to do that potentially throughout the rest of the season. We'll see if Kawhi Leonard plays tonight. He got injured on Tuesday night, left the arena after that, but played in last night's game against the Chicago Bulls. So you're catching them at the right time. And I think the other way you've got to look at this is a potential playoff preview. If the standings hold, this is who the Pelicans would be playing in the first round. So they need to come out firing. They need to really try and take it to the Los Angeles Clippers, and it should be a good one in the Smoothie King Center.
All right, before we get too deep into tonight's game, I do want to go back with you a little bit to the game against the Cavaliers. Obviously the 4 from 22 from three-point range for New Orleans really sticks out in that, but what else kind of went wrong for New Orleans in that to where they really couldn't ever get going, it felt like?
Yeah, that was one where coming right out of the game, the Cleveland Cavaliers were hot, making a couple of quick threes, and it put the Pelicans on the back foot. And that one started to get a little bit away from them, as not only were they just not, making threes, they weren't even attempting that many. 4 for 22 is bad in and of itself, particularly when Cleveland hits 20 three-point attempts, right? That's 16 threes made different. That's 48 points. 42 points. That's a pretty significant difference right there with everything. You've got to find a way to kind of make up for all of that, right? And you just can't do that because it's a math game. But they also got beat up down low, I think. You saw Jared Allen kind of have a lot of room just to run free, in the paint. The Cleveland Cavaliers only went to the free throw line 3 times in that game. They didn't go any times in the first half, just 3 times total. But they almost matched the Pelicans in terms of points in the paint because New Orleans just gave them 0 resistance inside. Part of that was New Orleans was concerned about the three-point shooting, trying to close out hard on guys, and that allowed Cleveland to just move the ball around and then eventually find an open man down low for an easy dunk with no sort of contest. New Orleans needs to be better defensively in this game, I think. But they also need to make shots. And I don't want to boil it down to like make or miss league and use a cliche like that. But the Pelicans' offense can often influence how good their defense can be. And their defense is really good this season. But it really helps when you're making shots. When the ball goes through the net, the opponent then has to inbound the ball, which allows your defense to get back, get set, and then you can try and force a turnover. Cleveland was running off a lot of those New Orleans misses. So when you go 4 of 22 and they grab a defensive board and then sprint down the court in transition, it's tough to stop that. And that's how you give up as many points as the Pelicans did. So trying to get more three-point shots to fall, which sometimes just you got to hope it happens, I think, is going to really improve this team and then make them better defensively and then hopefully make it so that they don't get torn up inside like they did against Cleveland as well.
That's what I was going to ask kind of about the three-point shooting there against Cleveland. Are we chalking that up to just like a bad shooting night or was there something more hampering the Pelicans?
So part of it is, yes, it's just a bad shooting night, right? Yeah. Trey Murphy went 1 for 6. He's been lightning, from deep throughout his recent run since he's kind of broken out of that slump. I think CJ was 1 of 5. He's been one of the better three-point shooters in the league this year. Sometimes that just happens, and I think during the regular season you don't want to overreact to that because say you're playing a team in a 4 to 7 game series, you're not going to go 4 for 22 every single night when the Pelicans are a top 5 three-point shooting team this season. It just happens. You've got to kind of realize that and then just move on to the next game and not take a knee-jerk approach. One of the questions I've seen a lot of people say is like, why didn't you put in Jordan Hawkins? Why didn't you put in Matt Ryan? Well, what they've been doing was winning. They were on a 4-game winning streak coming into that game. So I don't think you need to deviate from what's worked just based on a small sample size like this where things just aren't going your way. You trust CJ to make shots. You trust Trey Murphy to make shots. I think the biggest concern with the three-point shooting in that game against Cleveland to me was they only took 22 attempts. That's an incredibly low number. Their season average is around 30, and that's one of the lowest in the league. It's the fact that they stopped taking that and seem so rattled by it is what worries me about this team getting in their heads a little bit. I think it's one of those things where you need to trust the process over results, and they definitely didn't do that in that game, and it just took them completely out of rhythm.
All right. I meant to start with the Cleveland game, but I fired myself up too much in the open there, kind of talking about the Clippers matchup. So let's move back now to tonight's game. You mentioned Kawhi Leonard, getting injured, but playing against the Bulls, maybe a game-time decision tonight. James Harden, also a game-time decision tonight. Is this, because of what we kind of talked about right off the top there, how much this means actually to both teams? I mean, I know the Clippers have a few games to play with, up on the Pelicans, but can they afford to be without both Kawhi and James Harden in this game?
Yeah, I think they can. They can lose this game and still be fine. They're still ahead of the Pelicans in the standings. And when you look at the remaining strength of schedule, the Pelicans have a tougher one. And so I think Cleveland, the Clippers might. I don't think they're going to punt on this game, certainly, but they could if they needed to. When you look at playing back-to-backs in the NBA, the conventional strategy that most teams approach is you play your guys in the game that you think you're going to win. You don't save them for the tougher game, because if you don't play them in that first game, let's say, and you lose, and then you play them in the tougher game and still lose, you're 0-2 versus 1-1. They handled the Bulls in last night's game, so I think they might just be saying 1-1 is a good stretch here. So whatever happens in this game happens in this game. But we've also seen them not do their usual approach of load managing guys this season. That backfired on them in the playoffs the past couple of years, where they don't play it all together during the regular season, get into the postseason and lose in disappointing fashion because it looks like a bunch of strangers out there on the court. They haven't been doing that. I think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard have played in 59 of the 65 games the Clippers have played this season, which is a really strong number for them. So I think they're going to probably end up playing those guys, which that's okay. New Orleans has played the Clippers well this season. It's really, I think, going to come down to how Herb Jones handles Kawhi Leonard. Paul George, despite having a really, really good game last night, has struggled for the past month or two. And if you looked at their loss on Tuesday night, he didn't play particularly well as they blew a 15-point lead to the Minnesota Timberwolves once Kawhi Leonard left that game. If you can take Kawhi Leonard out of this game, if Herb Jones just shuts him down, which he's done before as he's one of the best defenders in the league, is Paul George capable of shouldering this load by himself and leading this team? James Harden is still James Harden, but isn't exactly the James Harden of old, and is more of a role player for this team than the star guy. It's going to be on Paul George to step up. We've seen him not necessarily do that, and I think the Pelicans can live with it if Paul George goes off, but nobody else does. They think they'll probably still be able to win this game.
All right, so that's kind of how the Pelicans get it done. Then right there is Herb Jones. So if the Pelicans don't win this game tonight, what does that look like? What went wrong for them against the Clippers, who they have played well against all year?
Yeah, look, the Clippers came into New Orleans earlier in the season, too, and kind of beat the brakes off the Pelicans when everybody was healthy. So this is a team that is deep. One of the Pelicans' strengths is their depth here. The starters have struggled a little bit this season for a variety of reasons, and it's the bench that's come in and kind of killed a lot of opponents. That's great in the regular season. That doesn't work in the postseason when teams are running shorter rotations or just the talent level is overall higher. So this is one of those games, given that the Clippers are kind of deep, they have a six-man of the year candidate in Norm Powell off the bench, where they just don't have one of their big strengths here, where you might not get out to a 10-point lead on a bench unit here. And that's, I think, going to be – this is why I think this game's so important, not just for the standings, but to see how they're going to look for the postseason here. So you want to see the starters coming out and playing well together. If they don't and they struggled against Cleveland, that's, I think, a concern long-term for how a playoff series could go against, not just the Clippers, but almost any team they would end up playing.
Talking with Jake Madison, Locked On Pels. Y'all get subscribed up. He's on Twitter at NolaJake. Jake, one more for you. It's not really necessarily about the game in general. I'd love some thoughts on Zion, because he's averaging 22 points in his last 10, which is right on his season average. You've seen him be healthy for the majority of the season. What type of progression have you seen from Zion as a result of that?
Yeah, look, he's playing the best basketball of the season right now. I don't want to say it's the best basketball of his career, because that was certainly last season when he looked like an MVP candidate before that hamstring injury. But he's just kind of finally in form this year. He basically said it the other day in his postgame press conference where he lost 2 years. He was out the entirety of 1 year and the entirety, second half of all of last season. So it's taken him some time to kind of get back into shape, get back into the flow of things. But one of the things he had mentioned, he's doing extra conditioning, extra cardio. You can see him out there just more engaged offensively and defensively too. He started to look like the guy we thought he could be coming into the league for maybe the first time in his career. Just seeing him get some of these blocks that he hasn't gotten before, a much better one-on-one defender, and given the Pelicans' identity is on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's a really important to see from him. But he's just looking like a professional basketball player, which is what we've wanted to see from him his whole career, taking it more seriously than he ever has. And it's leading him to play some really good basketball right now. The points per game aren't sky high, but his assist numbers are up. The rebounding numbers are up as well. That's really all you can ask for him, and he's leading the Pelicans right now.
Pels and Clippers tonight in the blender. It is a big one, 7 p.m. tip. Jake, we appreciate the time, helping us get ready for it, man. Thank you.
Of course, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Jake Madison on Twitter at NolaJake, hosts the Locked On Pels podcast. Get subscribed up if you have not already, especially now, man. They're getting set to make a run towards the playoffs, and they've been really exciting for the majority of this season. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side, talk some LSU football with Bryce Koon. It's AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by the Watermark Hotel and the Renaissance Hotel, two beautiful hotel properties in Baton Rouge, the Watermark downtown, the Renaissance Southtown right there on Bluebonnet. And when it comes to hosting your event, both the Watermark and the Renaissance are perfect. The Watermark is a gorgeous, elegant spot in downtown Baton Rouge. That wedding reception, that smaller gathering, that meeting space, they can do it. They've kept so much of the history and tradition of that iconic building while modernizing it. The Gregory is a great restaurant inside of the Watermark as well. And then, of course, the Renaissance Hotel, Southtown, right there on Bluebonnet in Baton Rouge. It's more modern. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous hotel property at the Renaissance Hotel where they have meeting space that can accommodate up to 500 people, 7,000 square foot of meeting space, perfectly located right off of Bluebonnet and I-10. It's the Watermark and the Renaissance Hotels in Baton Rouge.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off the new 23 Ram 1500 SCA truck. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $22,500 off the new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
The best kept secret.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
All right, it is LSU spring football practice, although it might not feel like it because they've been on spring break this entire week. Like, I understand why Brian Kelly does spring practice the way he does, having spring break in the middle because it lengthens it out and all that. But man, they were back in our lives for two days, and then they were just gone for a week. It's like a cruel tease. But they will be back on the practice field this coming Tuesday, March the 19th. So what can we expect? Let's talk to Bryce Koon from 247 Sports to find out just that. Bryce, we appreciate the time. How are you?
Doing well. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it, man. So, I mean, obviously, like I said, it was just 2 practices, and I think the media, we were only allowed to 1 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe not a whole bunch to go on from there, but would love some thoughts on what's potentially to come for spring. Still very early. What is the one thing you're most excited to see from them this spring?
Yeah, I mean, look, first off, you got 20 minutes. I mean, that's the media availability that we get. So, and they're not going to be running 11 on 11 or 7 on 7 during this time frame. But I think one of the biggest kind of storylines for me personally is who is going to be ready or show that they're capable of providing, quality snaps and a higher snap count along that defensive line. That was one thing that I really tried to pay attention to last week as we just kind of got a chance to look at how Bo Davis won, worked with the group. I will say this, and for, a lot of the media that was in attendance, we all kind of walked out saying this defensive staff is a tad more vocal, a tad more expressive in how they coach. And I think that's a good thing. With everything that happened last year and just the demand of this has to be better now. So for me, I would sit there and have to say the first thing that clicks for me, defensive line. Who is going to be that guy? Obviously, especially in the interior, you have a guy like Jacoby and Guillory coming back who figures to, was a good role player last year, but you got to throw some snaps. Does that play sustain what he was able to do as his snap load increases? And then behind him, you have Jalen Lee, who hasn't really played a ton. You have the JUCO Sean Washington as well. So there's just a lot of names, or I should say not a lot of names that you can really work with. And as they figure out more, truly, and how I feel about this, as they figure out more, that's when that big board is going to start getting built for the transfer portal when it opens back up on April 15th.
I think everybody obviously expects them to add some guys out of the portal, and you'll get a few of your recruits coming in a little bit later, maybe not the early enrollees. So the numbers obviously will get better there too, along with hopefully the production. I want to come back to the defensive line, but when you mentioned the defensive coaching staff being more vocal, how was the response to that? Like, was the energy good from the defensive players?
Yeah, so I'll point out 2 specific examples. Let's start with the defensive backs. Look, a lot has been made of, and Brian Kelly talked about this specifically, of Corey Raymond, the recruiter, versus Corey Raymond, the coach. That's kind of been the big talk is, can LSU find a way to get both A-level, stuff out of both the recruiter and the coach in this situation? Immediately what stands out to me was the way that Raymond was able to kind of dictate what happened and have teachable moments, especially, with a couple of guys that have been there for a while. I mean, look, it makes sense when the younger guys are taking to it, but when a guy like Major Burns is trying to, pay attention, when a guy like Sage Ryan, who has, been in the system, when they're really, listening and taking that coaching and working off to the side on some of those things, that to me was the biggest telling sign of, these guys are really starting to hopefully, obviously, buy into the messaging and the way that this goes. Then I'll kind of, harp with that as well. Kevin Peoples was the most expressive, working with some of those edge rushers. And if you talk to a lot of people, that know Kevin Peoples, that doesn't really surprise them all that much. Just the way that he goes about it, old school style coaching. But for Peoples, working with those edge rushers, immediately came to mind with, a guy like Deshaun Womack, who we all feel like, needs to be one of those guys that takes a massive step here in year number 2 of the program. Another guy that was, really focusing on pad level, how he was bending in his hands. So I was impressed with the way that not just the guys who are new that you expect to, soak it all in, but the guys that have been coached by other coaches before, really trying to hone in on that craft, which for me personally shows that there's a real true competition at all 11 of the positions of the defense, which is how fans should want it.
100%. I agree with that. You're also I think you might be the 3rd person who's come on the show and talks about how expressive Kevin Peoples is. So I think we can go ahead and confirm that, that he's got great energy over there on the defensive line. We're talking with Bryce Koon, 247 Sports. He's on Twitter at Bryce_Koon. Bryce, back to the defensive line for one more thing, because you talked about building out the big board. How many bodies do you think they want to add there before they feel comfortable?
Yeah, so first off, I sit with this. If you're looking at the interior, there's different ways you can go about this. They have kind of slid Ahmad Bro, the young man from Ruston, true freshman, who has some size and obviously will continue to build good muscle as he grows and gets into this nutrition program. He's 2 months into this thing. But once you get past him, once you get past the Dominic McKinley, which I think we could all say at some point is going to contribute to LSU, is it too much to ask, especially, in year one? I would say on that big board, there's at least got to be one thing. And then as you kind of figure out what you have in the three guys that I mentioned earlier, maybe that stretches to two. And for some people, two is the bare minimum, and I'm not against that either. I think that LSU, especially in this conference, expanded conference play, higher level competition coming into Baton Rouge and just all around, you got to have a dude. You have to have a dude in the middle, and then you've got to have some complementary pieces. For me personally, I don't know if they have that dude right now, and I think it's safe to say that they have some complementary pieces, but do you expect one of those guys to step up? So, kind of working my way back around to the answer, I would say two to be safe for me, and that's going to obviously depend on, several factors kind of going forward of what they leave spring feeling like they can put out in the field in fall.
I guess everybody who is anywhere close to this program, covering this program, whatnot, is anytime they're talking about it is going to be asked about Harold Perkins. So I haven't asked you yet. I guess I will. What's your take on Harold Perkins trying the inside linebacker out again for the second consecutive year?
Well, I mean, look, I don't think I'm breaking any news here by saying this is obviously something that Harold Perkins is trying to do for his future. Look, he's an exciting player to watch. I do not want to take anything away from that. When you look at his size, there's some questions, and you talk to some people, in the NFL ranks and scouts that might have some differing opinions on how this guy fits and where he fits. But as for the right now and the present, look, whether they run a 2-linebacker set or a 3-linebacker set, it's going to determine a lot of things. If you don't, what we just talked about, if you don't have the defensive line to be able to stop the run, it's not going to bode well for you to have a guy in Harold Perkins unless there's a massive, increase in his ability to play against the run in between the tackles. That could be a problem for you. You could see a lot of the same issues up front that they had. So for me with Harold Perkins, that's cool. Let him play that. I would personally feel more comfortable. And look, I'm no football guru in the sense of, X's and O's. Maybe if you go to a 3-linebacker set, and we're talking about a situation where you have a Greg Penn and a Whit Weeks that can be those run-fit guys and play athletically, to their talent, but then kind of still put Harold Perkins in that rover position, which might honestly be the best spot for him. I will say this. I do have confidence, just from talking with people and just hearing some things, that Blake Baker has a legitimate plan for Harold Perkins. And I'll say this. I think that last year with the previous staff, the previous regime, there was a lot of, well, he's just the best player. He's going to go make plays. I don't feel like there was some serious scheming to put him in the best position, and I don't think that's breaking news either. But they're going to have to figure this out. The worst-case scenario is you get 3 or 4 games into the season, and we kind of felt like we did last year where, he's putting up some numbers, but those big plays that we saw in year one, they're just not there. And that's who he can be.
Talking with Bryce Koon, 247 Sports, getting some thoughts on LSU spring practice. They return, I should say, to the practice field on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. I could sit here and probably talk to you about the defensive side of the ball for the entire 3 hours that this radio show runs. But let's, for the sake, shift and get a few in offensively. I want to start at running back because it's weird. You go back to this time last season, and it's, man, who are they going to give the ball to? They got so many guys. How do they give the ball to all of them? And you come back now, and it's, okay, well, who are they going to give the ball to? Because there's not many there right now. I mean, Logan Diggs transfers out. You have a couple other guys leave. Trey Holly's dealing with his situation right now, and you look out there and you're thin. So what are your expectations for the running back room this year at LSU?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of nailed the head. We were talking about what it was 8 guys deep last year. I mean, look, there's going to be a trivia somewhere, and I don't want to say any certain restaurant because I'm not sure of your full sponsor list that's going to say, hey, who had the first touch as a running back in 2023? And a lot of people are going to forget it was Trey Bradford in that Florida State game. So, there was just a host of names to go with. But for this year, a couple of the biggest questions. Look, LSU, teams, across the SEC, fans anywhere, they know what they're going to get out of Josh Williams. You're going to get a selfless guy who is going to play for the betterment of the team. He's going to lay some fantastic highlight blocks, and he's a guy that you just know what you're going to get out of him. After you get away from that, the biggest question last year, and fans wanted to see it, is why haven't we seen more Caleb Jackson? And per Brian Kelly, the biggest thing was he's got to continue to grow in some ways that is not just the great athlete that he is. And that makes a lot of sense. But playing, running back at this level, you have to be able to block. You have to be able to understand, gaps, and especially in this kind of new run system they might be trying to use in more of a zone run. So Caleb Jackson's going to be good because he's just that good of an athlete and he's a great football player. But I'm looking for the maturity of sense of, understanding what he's doing, not just relying on that innate God-given ability, which I think that he's, well on his way to doing. After that, like you mentioned, you're talking about non-scholarship guys. This is another situation. Look, we know Frank Wilson does not like to roll into any season with honestly less than 4 guys. Like, that's just kind of been his calling card. Last year, we mentioned was 8. I think that you're going to see them at least go get 1 guy in the portal. After that, you're going to have Caden Durham, who a lot of people feel can contribute. You wouldn't necessarily want to force feed him into situations that he's uncomfortable with, and we know Brian Kelly likes to play veterans. But I think it's going to be 1 veteran addition through the portal, and then you're going to have a situation where Caden Durham comes in. You'll have the 2 young guys in Jackson and Durham, and then you'll have portal addition in Josh Williams. But once again, look, the transfer portal is crazy. They are going to have a specific fit, a guy that understands that this is going to be running back by committee. This is not coming in to be RB1. And that's kind of a hard thing to pitch to kids. And, some of the reason why LSU missed out on some of the guys that went elsewhere in the portal, not just at running back, but elsewhere, because it's a specific need. You could look much like they did at quarterback with bringing in A.J. Swan.
Last one for you here, Bryce. Your time very much appreciated. Just kind of an overall expectation for LSU's offense. I mean, they're replacing Malik Neighbors. They're replacing Brian Thomas. They're obviously replacing the best offensive player in college football and the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels, and nobody's really talking about it. It's just, Garrett's got this. You're gonna pass along, and you're gonna keep rolling, which is patently absurd to even think about, considering the history of the quarterback position at LSU. I love it, but it's just weird to be in that spot. So, I mean, are you kind of in that camp that they're going to keep rolling here this year on offense?
Well, I think the biggest thing to kind of, back that point up is that you could argue, and I feel comfortable saying this is the best offensive line unit in the SEC. They're going to, it feels like, insert DJ Chester. That's a guy that I had a lot of experience watching, back when he was in high school in Atlanta area. So they're going to have, you got the 2 NFL tackles they got over there. You have guards that feel like they could carve out a nice role at the next level. So that's going to be the biggest calling card. And then kind of, the rumors floating out that they may go to more of a zone run. I think that's going to help, Garrett Nussmeier and tailor more towards what he does. Of course, there's the expectation. Look, come off, 3 first-round picks that are going to make a lot of money here in the next month when they get drafted. But outside of that, it's going to take guys stepping up at the wide receiver position. I'm excited to see, for me, just the biggest one. We know the guys they brought into the portal, but it kind of feels like this has got to be Chris Hilton's year, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, a guy like Chris Hilton, who I feel like was on his way to building some momentum, and one thing fans kind of forgot about is that, last second heave at Ole Miss, he got hurt, and he had an ankle injury. And I think that kind of sidelined what he could have maybe done, or, just built confidence throughout the season in that. Tyron Lacey, does he flourish into a new role? Aaron Anderson is a guy they've tried to get more involved in with some different things. So the pieces are there. And I think offensively, the continuity, which is one of the biggest things Brian Kelly wants in a program and he wants at LSU, and I feel like he finally has, was bringing Joe Sloan and Cortez Hankins and saying, hey, you're going to be our guys. We've got Brad Davis. We've got Frank Wilson. Like, this is the best possible supporting cast that Joe Sloan could have asked for as an OC. He's got it here in Baton Rouge. So I'm excited to see what they do. A lot of people assume that it's just going to be just as good. Look, there's going to be a little regression to the mean. I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be good. I don't think that, we're going to see a Heisman level campaign. That would be kind of cherry on top type of, type of performance. But outside of that, man, I mean, look, this can be a top 15, top 10 offense. The pieces are there. And the biggest thing, especially in that revamped SEC, like I mentioned earlier, the offensive line should be a Joe Moore Award finalist. Like, all things considered, I know injuries occur, I know things can happen, but this is a really nice group, and I think they could lead the way for a different looking offense. But at the end of the year, you're going to see, hey, they were top 15, top 10 in the country.
Bryce, you get a Heisman campaign from Garrett Nussmeier this year, and they're going to ditch the DBU moniker for QBU real fast. Which, again, would just be absurd to think about. But, hey, man, times are good here right now in the quarterback position. We're not going to take that for granted, for sure. Bryce Koon, 247 Sports. We appreciate the time, man. Y'all give him a follow on Twitter at Bryce_Koon. Thanks. We'll do it again soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. That was a really great conversation, y'all. I mean, look, it's incredible. They've been gone for a week, and there's still just so much to talk about with that program. It's going to be very, very intriguing. Year number 3 for Brian Kelly here in Baton Rouge. All right, we're late. We're going to grab a break. Come back on the other side. Get you caught up on the major headlines out of the NFL today. Next on AFR.
Brought to you by Evermore, all natural, great tasting water. When you uncap a bottle of Evermore, that's the first time the product touches air. It's incredible. It's a natural well. It's natural artesian water. It's a well. It's on the North Shore. I went to their bottling facility. When you pull up on the left, you'll see the well is right there. They've drilled deep into the earth. They pipe it out right into their filters and their filtration system. Nothing is added. Nothing is extracted. It is completely pure from the earth water. So if you want a healthier option, if you want a healthier lifestyle, something healthier for your children, maybe you're an athlete that wants a superior form of hydration, Evermore, EVAMOR. If you notice, go to their website, you'll see Dak Prescott is one of their chief spokespeople. I mean, starting NFL quarterback is vouching for it. Check it out at great local retailers or order on their website at EVAMOR.com, Evermore.com, Evermore.com.
AFR.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. the local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
It's the details that make the difference between good enough and simply the best. At Skag Power Equipment, the difference is in designing lawnmowers with your convenience and comfort in mind. At Skag, we believe that quality and substance matter, and that you'll appreciate the attention to detail and craftsmanship we put into every single product. Thick steel and heavy-duty components provide you with unmatched reliability and performance. Skag, simply the best.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
All right, back here on a Friday edition of AFR. Musso in for Moscona. A couple really big storylines out of the NFL today that I do want to at least touch on here. Then we'll get to Tigers and the pros, and then we'll close out the show with the 5 o'clock hour. We're going to talk a lot of LSU baseballs. We're coming up on, we're about an hour and 19 minutes or so away from first pitch. The Tigers open up the SEC schedule in Starkville. Obviously, the biggest news from the NFL today was Aaron Donald retiring. And, I mean, when you have somebody like him who can go down as the greatest player of all time at his position, defensive tackle, that it's always going to kind of come as a surprise in a sense when that person retires. Aaron Donald's 32, so I mean he's not young, but it's only 10 seasons for him in the NFL, and it was 10 dominant seasons. I mean, dominant season, 10 Pro Bowls. I mean, never missed a Pro Bowl in his 10 years, and you might say, okay, it's the Pro Bowl moves, chill out. Like, it's not meaningful anymore to a lot of people, and I understand. And, you end up with alternates and all that kind of stuff. I get it. But 8 out of 10 years, first team All-Pro, that's incredible. This is a guy who has the most quarterback hits, 260, in the history of the NFL for a defensive tackle, and the second most all-time anyway. 176 TFLs, most by any player in the NFL through his first 10 seasons. 111 career sacks, most by a defensive tackle for the first 10 seasons in NFL history, 11th most of a player all time. He's got more left in the tank. This is just him going out on his own terms, and I can respect that immensely. It feels like we've been dealing with the Aaron Donald retirement rumor for a while now. I mean, everyone thought he was going to leave after the Rams won the Super Bowl. Just go out on the top. I have no doubt that Aaron Donald could give you more. And selfishly, as just a fan of the NFL and a fan of football, I'd like to see him do it. But I can also respect him going out on his own time immensely, because you're starting to see this more and more. I mean, look at J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt was the latest guy to really do that. Now, granted, he had plenty of injuries throughout his career, and that's all well documented. But does anybody really doubt that J.J. Watt couldn't have given you a little bit more? And it's time to go start a family. It's time to do those kind of things. So, a hat tip to a great career for Aaron Donald. I mean, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I believe 2029 is when he'll be eligible, and he deserves it. I mean, I guess you have to throw the caveat there, arguably the greatest defensive tackle of all time, for my money, at least that I've seen in my lifetime, he is. And I mean, we just give you those stats right there. Every single one of them was followed by most in NFL history. When you do that, Aren't you the greatest of all time? I'd say so. Of course, what he's remembered most for here is injuring Drew Brees. But, that Brees came back all right from that. You had some really nice backup quarterback play there as well that year. But I think that's what everybody, I know on Saints Twitter that the image of Brees' hand going into Donald, that was posted quite a bit today. I saw that on my timeline, actually more than I cared to remember. But, another thing, look, Aaron Donald tied for the most Defensive Player of the Year awards in NFL history with J.J. Watt and Lawrence Taylor. He was incredible. So best of luck in whatever's next to him. Respect him going out on his own time. And, it was awesome to watch him. The other really big news today with the NFL, we got our first draft trade of the pre-draft process here. It was the Vikings and the Texans. So the Vikings acquired the number 23 overall pick in the 2024 draft from the Houston Texans, along with a 7 in this year's draft as well. And the Texans got Minnesota's 2nd, their 6th, and their 2nd in 2025. Credit Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero there on the report for that. The reason I wanted to mention this is I'm just fascinated now with what the Vikings are going to do, because they have the 11th pick and the 23rd pick. You would think they'd package that and try to move up. The Vikings have had a really interesting offseason so far. Obviously, Kirk Cousins leaves in free agency. Danielle Hunter leaves in free agency. The Panthers just signed one of their other edge rushers in free agency. They go ahead and they sign Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal. So, you look at all of that, and they still have Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. They have a great supporting cast to put around a quarterback. They go sign Sam Darnold. So you think, okay, they get 2 first-round picks. They're packaging them. They're going to move up for a quarterback. But, they're not getting into the top 3 because the Bears, Commanders, and Patriots are all taking a quarterback. They're all taking quarterback. The moves they've made in the offseason just, further drive that home. So you're not getting into the top 3. The Cardinals at 4 aren't taking a quarterback. The Chargers at 5 aren't taking a quarterback. New York Giants, maybe. They have Drew Lock and Daniel Jones, maybe. The Titans, they're not. The Falcons definitely aren't anymore because they got Kirk Cousins from that. So you go down, the Vikings are sitting there at 11. Anyone they move up for is going to be there for them at 11. So I'm going to be actually very interested to see what the Vikings do with now their 2 first-round picks. Do they package and move up? Or do they stand pat at 11 and get a quarterback there? Or do they just want 2 first-round picks? That's obviously a possibility too. But everybody else in front of them, the Giants are really the only other team who could conceivably take quarterback right there. And I don't even know if they will. So that's going to be something more interesting to watch as we approach closer and closer to the draft, what Minnesota now does with 2 first-round picks. The Broncos, they certainly could draft a quarterback, but they're already a pick behind Minnesota anyway. So just file that away. That's something to stash away for now and keep an eye on when you get closer to draft day and on draft day. But thought it was interesting and definitely wanted to pass it along. All right, we're going to grab a break. We're going to come back on the other side. We'll close out hour number 2 here on a Friday edition of AFR, same way we do every time. Tigers and the Pros. That's next here on After Further Review.
AFR.
Brought to you by Action Industries. Make sure you check them out online, on Facebook or on LinkedIn. It's Action Industries. And, of course, when you're at the box. Every single game, all year long, out at the box. If you see a mound visit, those mound visits all season long are brought to you by Action Industries. Action Industries is a great industrial contractor that served the petrochemical and refinery markets, all the plants up and down the river for 40 years, since 1982, going on 41 years now in business. And listen, there's 2 things that I've learned talking to Chuck and all the gang over there at Action Industries. Number 1, you do not get hired to work in those plants if you don't have an exemplary safety record. At Action Industries, their safety record beats the industry standard, and you don't get rehired if you don't do quality work. Well, Action Industries has been around for 40 years. Check them out online. It's Action Industries.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
All right, let's wrap up hour number 2, Tigers in the Pros.
Tigers in the Pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, we got some more new homes for Tigers in the NFL. Devin White signing a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. That is worth up to $7.5 million. Report comes from Adam Schefter. We're waiting to see where Devin White would land, and it is with Philadelphia. So, man, would have hoped it could have potentially been a little bit more long-term for him, but he's at least going back to a contender, which is great, and he'll definitely be able to contribute there. And look, man, he shows out, and maybe that can lead to another long-term deal. Kayvon Chaisson also on the move. The Carolina Panthers agreeing to a 1-year deal with Chaisson worth up to $5 million. That report comes from Ian Rappaport of NFL Media. Chaisson previously with the Jaguars, now going to be a member of the Panthers. Trying to get you coming off a career high, two sacks in 2023. Obviously looking to build on that number. MLB spring breakout last night. Paul Skeens humiliating other first-round picks and former 1-1 guys in Jackson Holiday. Perfect inning for Skeens. No walks, 2 strikeouts, 6 of his 11 pitches. Yes, Paul Skeens in a showcase game, like designed to feature all the game's future stars, needed 11 pitches to get through it, and 6 of them were over 100 miles per hour. He is not a human being. He is just a complete alien, and he absolutely dusted Enrique Bradfield and Jackson Holiday. So shout out to Paul Skeens. He's doing great. 9 former Tigers participating in that showcase for what it's worth. And we'll wrap up Tigers in the Pros here quickly with some golf from Ponte Vedra Beach. It was another rough day for the former Tigers. If my app would load, we could get you that. Here you go. Sam Burns did shoot 2 under par today. He's at 1 under, but he's got to have some work to do to make the cut. And Ben Taylor shot 5 over par today. He is at 6 over. He will not be around for the weekend. That is Tigers in the Pros. Before we hit you top of the hour, just a little reminder here about Pure Restoration.
Mold Zero, now Pure Restoration. Same patented non-toxic dry fog treatment. If you got mold, think you might have mold, not sure if you have mold, mold can be in your walls. You don't even know about it. Pure Restoration comes in. You don't have to worry about moving furniture, pulling up carpet, any of that sort of stuff. They come in, they'll spray their patented non-toxic dry fog. Your home, office building, commercial building, whatever it may be, they're going to be more efficient than traditional remediation. It's going to cost you less as well. I love telling this story. There was an elderly woman who's a homeowner, had black mold on her ceiling, and she couldn't get a quote from anywhere that was less than $28,000. This was an elderly widow. Mold Zero came in, got rid of the mold for less than $5,000. Mold Zero is now Pure Restoration. Same company, same great patented non-toxic dry fog. They're general contractors, so they can do demolition and build back when you need it. They can take care of odor, sanitization. It's Pure Restoration. Pure-restoration.com. Pure-restoration.com.
All right, getting set to close out hour number 2 here on a Friday edition of AFR. LSU, they open up conference play tonight in baseball against Mississippi State on the road in Starkville. We'll spend the majority of the 5 o'clock hour getting you set for first pitch. Should have a lineup out here in a few minutes. Todd Walker's going to join the show as well. We'll give you a preview and a prediction. All of that here in the 5 o'clock hour. That's next, right after national headlines from SportsCenter. It's Friday's AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
He's here. Anyone want a Coors Light?
Oh, shoot, I forgot to play the song. I got a guy who can fix this.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Rams defensive lineman Aaron Donald announces his retirement on social media today. Donald played 10 years with the Rams after he was taken with the 13th overall pick in 2014. The Vikings now have 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft. They make a trade today with the Texans to get the 23rd overall pick. ESPN's Dan Graziano.
They're picking, 11 and now 23. So if you're a team that's trying to move up in the first round of the draft for a quarterback, having 2 first-round picks is a very helpful thing. I think I would be watching the Vikings for further moves.
Dan Graziano on Greeny. As part of that deal, Houston gets a second-round pick this year and another one next year. Michigan fires basketball coach Juwan Howard after 5 years on the job. The Wolverines ended this season 8-24, last in the Big Ten for the first time since 1967. St. Louis Cardinals manager Oliver Marmol gets a 2-year contract extension through 2026.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Commercial Insurance. It flexes to fit your business's needs. From quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options, Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios.
And welcome in to the Friday edition of AFR, final hour of the week. Musso in for Moscona, Grant Lanero, Paul O'Neill along for the ride as well. And glad you're here. It's been a great show. It's been a great week, honestly, here on AFR. And we got one more hour to get through, and we're going to spend a large majority of it talking LSU baseball as the Tigers get set to open up conference play tonight on the road at Mississippi State. We're now less than an hour away from first pitch. There was a little bit of weather concern, but looks like everything should be good to go in Starkville. It looked like the weather was supposed to kind of move out of there by about 4:30, 5 o'clock. So, it should be clearing up right now there, and they should be able to get this game started on time. If we get an update or a change to the schedule, we'll absolutely pass it on to you. Still waiting on a lineup to be posted. So while I have a moment, I'll tell you this. Earlier in the show, we were talking about LSU basketball and how they might find their way into the NIT. And we were really focusing in on 3 teams, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and LSU, kind of battling for those spots in the NIT. And how it works is the NIT takes the top 2 teams in the net ranking that did not make the NCAA tournament from a conference, and they get the automatic bid into the NIT tournament. So A&M, Ole Miss, LSU in that order. A&M's on the tournament bubble. They won their first game in the SEC tournament yesterday. They play Kentucky tonight. So we were saying, man, if they beat Kentucky, that should solidify their trip to the NCAA tournament, and LSU would get one of the automatic bids with them and Ole Miss left. They are kind of sitting there, with the 2 highest net rankings that wouldn't make the NCAA tournament. And I quipped and made the joke, like, I know it might be hard for some of you, but you need to root for Texas A&M tonight. Well, now I come with great news. You no longer have to root for Texas A&M tonight. So multiple reports out of Oxford, seeing this from Jarrett Redding, who covers Ole Miss for 247 Sports, seeing it from David Eckert, who covers Ole Miss for the Clarion Ledger. Chris Beard has made it official and announced that Ole Miss will not play in the NIT or any other postseason tournament. So LSU, by nature of an automatic bid and their position in the net ranking, in the conference, should be on their way to the NIT. And I would absolutely expect LSU to take a bid there. I mean, Matt McMahon's kind of already talked about it a little bit the value that another game and playing in the postseason, even though the NIT is not your goal, would provide. And it looks like LSU's on their way there. So that's great news. For Ole Miss, this is baffling to me. I don't know why you would turn your nose down to any postseason action with where your program's coming from, but to each their own. And if it's going to get LSU in there, then fine. I mean, if that takes any of the sweat away, I personally would love to see LSU in there just because it provides that stepping stone that you need to take the program forward. And quite frankly, the players on this team deserve it. They deserve it. How much better they got throughout the year, really sticking together, coming together as a team. They deserve any type of reward they can get. And for me, this is that. And the other thing is, you go there, you win a game, you're going to get to host. You go there, you win a game. That puts actual expectation on this program going forward already for the 2024 season. So I'm all for that. Thank you, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is nowhere close to the level of a program that should turn their nose down at the NIT, and maybe there's other reasons. I don't know. None of these tweets note any reason. It's just it's just noting that Chris Beard said they're not playing in any tournament. So, all right, LSU will gladly take your place. So it looks like LSU is going to be off to the NIT and with an automatic bid and a host spot at the PMAC. And we still don't have a lineup from LSU baseball, and that's really disappointing. But we're going to talk about the game anyway. So we had Robbie Falk on with us yesterday to preview the series, and it was a very good preview. Robbie does great work, so if you missed that, go check it out on demand. Of course, AFR on demand, brought to you by Brett Goff, and of course you can find it on the YouTube channel as well. So I encourage you to do that. This is a very interesting test for LSU. When you look at Mississippi State, how they started out the season, it wasn't good. I mean, it looked like they were just going to completely fold already, and it was just going to be a continuation of what happened to them really the previous two seasons coming off the national championship. Then they started to play a little bit better. They were able to rattle off 9 straight wins, and they're coming off a walk-off win against UNO in their final midweek game into this series. The one thing that stands out about Ole Miss, they're kind of about Mississippi State. That's what I get for talking about both Mississippi schools in one segment. When you look at Mississippi State, they're kind of the inverse of what they were from a year ago. Last year, they weren't a good fielding team, and they were dreadful on the mound. But they could hit a little, and especially hit for power. This year, Mississippi State has been much better on the mound, especially in the starting rotation, although there is a change there with Evan Sierra replacing Nate Dome. Nate Dome has some type of arm injury. They've been especially better in the starting rotation and even in the bullpen, and definitely in the field. They're fielding about 980. They have not performed well offensively outside of Dakota Jordan, who has been a absolute monster. So they're playing better. When you looked at how they started the season and you saw it was LSU's first series, you're like, okay, that's a really good chance for LSU to get off to a great start. It's going to be a challenge. It's always a challenge in the SEC. I don't want to make it sound like that because Mississippi State was dreadful last year, and they came and beat the national championships in their own ballpark. So I don't want to completely, but I look at them a little differently right now than I did in early February. We'll get a little bit deeper into that here a little bit later in the segment. We do have a lineup now, so I want to go run through that for you. And it goes like this. For LSU, leading off, Mac Bingham. He will play left field and hit first. Saw him in the leadoff spot against North Dakota State. Thought that went pretty well. Tommy White is hitting second and playing third. Obviously, Stephen Milam will bat will bat third and play second. Jared Jones in the cleanup spot at first. Hayden Travinsky's DHing. Brady Neal is catching and hitting sixth. Michael Braswell will be in the 7 hole at short. Paxton Kling will be in the 8 spot and play center field. And Josh Pearson will be in the 9 hole and play right. Luke Holman on the bump. The guys that are here in this lineup should not be a surprise to you at all. I mean, I know I've been saying that it was going to be these 9 guys probably since after the Rice game on Musso at the box. And we talked about it on Monday here on AFR as well. And we talked about it in the previous days that it was going to be these 9 guys. The Josh Pearson thing is the trust factor. They trust him. Jay trusts him. And again, They should. Josh Pearson has done nothing but reward that trust throughout his career at LSU. You knew he'd be in there, and you saw this last year where you barely saw him in the pre-conference. You get to the A&M series, bam, Josh Pearson's in the lineup. I like Mac Bingham in the leadoff spot. I really do. I thought he's got, I think, 6 hits in his last 3 games. So, sure, he's got the average back up to 300. Put him up there. I like the protection that they have around Tommy White here. You got your leading hitter behind him. Like, Stephen Milam's been awesome. It's not what you normally think of in protection in terms of guy who's going to jump the yard on you, but it's your leading hitter. You put your leading hitter behind Tommy White, sure, he's going to see plenty of pitches to hit. I like having Brady Neal behind Hayden Travinski. That is good protection for Travinski. Neal, if not for Milam, I mean, Neal's probably been your hottest hitter right now. He's been incredible. And then you have Paxton Kling in there. And I know people might ask why. I mean, hell, I'll just scroll to the comment section and see if hey, Cassie Campbell, thanks. She tagged me and it said, here's the lineup. Appreciate you for that. Oh, actually, nobody did. Anyway, you might ask why Paxton Kling's in there. Because he's Paxton Kling. He's incredibly talented. And you're going to roll with him until he figures it out. And the talent and the upside dictate that. And his stellar defense in center field. So I love having him in the 8-hole. He's going to see plenty of fastballs. He should take good at bats. And that's what I said. That's what I want to see from him. I don't care if Paxton Kling goes 0 for tonight. I just want to see more competitive at bats. I want to see that strikeout number come down for him. Put the ball in play, battle a pitcher, and do well. Overall, I'm in great favor of the guys who are in this lineup. I like the order of it too. The only change I would have conceivably made potentially would have been swapping Milam and Bingham, but I don't think you can really go wrong with either of those guys in the leadoff spot. So this is a great lineup that they're going to run out there, and they'll face Evan Sierra. I'll give some final thoughts a little bit later on in the show and a prediction before we get out of here. One more time: Bingham, White, Milam, Jones, Travinski, Neal, Braswell, Kling, Pearson, Luke Holman on the bump. Let's grab a break. Come back on the other side. We'll talk LSU-Mississippi State, but we're going to preview the conference slate as a whole in the SEC with Todd Walker from the SEC Network next here on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about Glow Resources. Complete employer solutions. That's Glow Resources. That's Jareth Knockan and all my friends over at Glow. I remind you all the time about Glow Resources. It's GLO, glowresources.com. If you're a business owner, remember, that's who Glow works for. They work for you, the business owner. And it's not just in Baton Rouge. It's Baton Rouge, Houston, Miami, New Orleans, Orlando, Ridgeland. They got resources, and they've got companies and locations all over. And they can place employees anywhere for your job in any industry. Maybe it's mechanical or heavy machinery. Even if you need professional employee solutions, if you need management solutions, they've got you covered there as well. It's Glow Resources. Listen, hiring has been tough for so many businesses since COVID. Stop guessing. Let professionals at Glow help with complete employer solutions. It's Glow Resources. Again, learn more online at glowresources.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $22,500 off the new 23 Ram 1500 SCA truck. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $22,500 off the new Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
It's the details that make the difference between good enough and simply the best. At Skag Power Equipment, the difference is in designing lawnmowers with your convenience and comfort in mind. At Skag, we believe that quality and substance matter, and that you'll appreciate the attention to detail and craftsmanship we put into every single product. Thick steel and heavy-duty components provide you with unmatched reliability and performance. Skag, simply the best.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
All right, it's that time of year. I'm fired up for it. I'm sure many of you are as well. I mean, look, the pre-conference is great. I just love the game of baseball, and I'd watch LSU. I mean, I do go watch LSU scrimmage, but the real season is here now. Conference play starts tonight, and you got a great slate all across the league. 3 ranked matchups as to be expected. Here to help us preview all of it, former Tiger great Todd Walker, now of the SEC Network. Todd, we appreciate the time. How are you?
I'm great. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. We'll get to LSU and Mississippi State, obviously, but I got to start in Gainesville because I think already when you looked at the opening weekend, like kind of before the season started, this was one that was going to be the most intriguing or one of the most intriguing. But with the start that Florida's gotten off to, with the start that Texas A&M has gotten off to, it adds a level of even more intrigue. Like, are the Aggies for real, and are the issues that Florida is having are for real? What are you expecting out of this matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Look, I would argue Florida's had the toughest schedule up to this point. I mean, they play in the gauntlet of the state of Florida. They've got losses to Florida State, Miami, Stetson, University of Central Florida. So Kevin O'Sullivan puts together a crazy schedule early. Most of these SEC teams don't play that tough of a schedule. They've got the best player in the country in Jack Caglione, hitting over 400 this year. He's also their best pitcher on the mound. We saw him in Game 3 last year. LSU beat him up. He was a little erratic, but I think he's got control now. He's a little older, a little more experienced. But so they've got the best player in the country. I think Florida's going to be fine. The bullpen's pretty bad. They've got some decent starters, does Florida. And then on the other side, Texas A&M. I know they love their first 5 hitters, including Lavalette, the big freshman from last year. They had 21 home runs. And Braden Montgomery, the transfer from Stanford that comes over and plays the outfield. He's a 5-tool player. I mean, he pitches for him as well, hits bombs. I mean, the dude's hitting 400 with 7 home runs. The combination of Ryan Prager, Justin Lampkin, the 2 lefties on the mound, they've been dynamic. And then you remember what Troy Wansing did last year in the SEC tournament. Now he's hurt, but they're pretty strong. They're top heavy, Texas A&M, but 17-0 is nothing to sleep on.
So are you a believer in the Aggies here early on? I mean, that we'll learn a lot about them against Florida, but so far with what you've seen, are they for real?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. And for the reasons I said, again, Braden Montgomery, if Jack Caglione is not the best player in the country, Braden Montgomery is, and he plays for Texas A&M. And again, they've got the lefty starters, which I love. LSU, we know, has that as well. They hold runners. They neutralize the left-handed bats on the other side, and it just gives them an odd look. Most hitters are used to facing right-handed pitchers, so Texas A&M has, Prager and Lampkin, the lefties. They're pretty good.
What stands out to you about Tennessee making a trip to Tuscaloosa? Alabama coming off a super regional appearance last year with all the turmoil that ended up surrounding that program. So you got a first-year head coach, but they look healthy on the mound finally, and they've been really good. I mean, Tony V, he's just kind of got it rolling up there in Knoxville.
He always has it rolling. Frank Anderson, the pitching coach, one of the best in the country. Chase Burns, who they lost to Wake Forest, but they still have Drew Beam. They got a kid named A.J. Causey that's really doing well. The bullpen's been great. For Tennessee, they're hitting 336 this year as a team, almost 50 home runs. They got 6 hitters over 360 already. So Tennessee cuts up the the outside the conference games, 2.78 on the mound. I mean, their only loss was their second game of the year to Oklahoma. So they're pretty good. And, of course, we know Alabama lost their best guy to LSU, Luke Holman.
Yep.
But they're still pretty good. I mean, Alabama, they got a 6'6" guy named Greg Ferrone, a 1.72 ERA in 4 starts. He's a Louisville transfer, left-handed pitcher. Ben Hess has been around. He's one of their starters. They got a pretty good staff, pitching staff. And they hit it too. I mean, they're hitting 340 as a group. Rob Vaughn in his first year as the head coach there out of Maryland. Alabama's for real. Look, every SEC school is for real. We could probably cut Missouri out of that, but everybody else, I mean, and it's no secret that, the SEC's won 5 of the last 6 national championships and should have been all 6. Arkansas was 1 out away in 2018. And, oh, by the way, all 6 of those by 6 different teams in the SEC. So, I mean, it's just these next 10 weeks, 3 games each, 30 games, is a lot of fun to watch because at any given weekend, anybody can win.
We were talking about it yesterday. It's insane that every year you go into the season and you look at the league and you go, God, is it actually stronger than it was the year prior?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this year it feels the same way. Okay, you mentioned cutting Missouri out, so let's just go there because I was going to ask you about Arkansas anyway. Arkansas they're at home, Baum Walker, number 1 in the country, facing Missouri. They probably shouldn't have a lot of trouble against the Tigers, but you never know. But what do you want to see from Arkansas here as they get started in SEC play?
I really want to see Arkansas win. I mean, Dave Van Horn's in his 22nd year. He's been so close a number of times. They don't hit particularly well, and that's, they named that ballpark Baum Ballpark for a reason. You should be raking out there, and they're just not doing it. They're hitting sub-300 as a group. The bullpen is good, and their starters with Brady Tigert and Hagen Smith are as good as they get in the country. I mean, those two can beat anybody. And so that's what gives Arkansas hope. I love the Kendall Diggs kid. He's been doing it since he was a freshman. The outfielder, he can really go get it. Jared Sprague-Lott is their best hitter at 380. So they've got some pieces. It's just a function with Arkansas that they just continue to stay healthy. But again, I really like Hagen Smith. He had that big game early in the year, struck out 17 or 18 guys. He's got a 9-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, so he's pretty strong.
Yeah, but that game was absurd. I mean, 18 outs, 17 Ks against the number 7 team in the. That's just
silly.
He was great at 93, 94. Now he throws 100. It's just like, why? He didn't need that, Todd. He didn't need that.
No.
We're talking to Todd Walker, SEC Network, previewing this weekend slate in the conference, the opening weekend. Got to ask you about Auburn and Vanderbilt, and then we'll get to LSU and Mississippi State. So Auburn and Vanderbilt, that's your third ranked-on-ranked matchup. And Butch Thompson always has a really solid club. And, I mean, we know what Tim Corbin does, the starting pitching over there at Vanderbilt with Holton and company. They certainly seem to be on track for another great year there in Nashville.
Nothing special about Auburn. I mean, it's kind of going to be what you've seen year in and year out. I love Butch Thompson in his 9th year now over there. Gabe Gross runs the offense. Ike Irish, that freshman last year as a sophomore, he's pretty special. But, they're just good. And if they do anything great this year, it's going to be a credit to the coaching staff that they have, which, again, Butch Thompson, Gabe Gross, those guys. Vandy, they're always tough. They're always going to play good defense under Tim Corbin. They got 300 hitters in that lineup, so, they can really swing it. They're on that fast turf over there, so, that kind of helps the averages, Bryce Cunningham has been good for them, and then they got the 2 left-handed stars behind him, Devin Futrell and J.D. Thompson. So the advantage is just going to be really good, really strong, and expect a lot of good things out of them.
All right, LSU and Mississippi State. Luke Holman will be on the bump for the Tigers. You got a change in the rotation tonight for the Bulldogs. Nate Dome looks like he's dealing with an arm injury. And it'll be Evan Sierre. I guess I can ask you a couple, in-depth questions about these guys, but just I guess first, kind of just an overview of what you expect this weekend.
Well, I expect LSU to beat them. Luke Holman's the 10-to-1 strike to walk out. It's amazing what people do, right? Luke Holman last year had 15 starts, for Alabama, 1-7, and he had a 3-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He comes over to Baton Rouge like Paul Skeens did last year. When Paul Skeens was at Air Force, he had a 3-1. Now they both come to LSU. They got 10-1. I mean, that's how I grade pitchers. Like, I mean, how many strikeouts can you get compared to how much control you have? And it's ridiculous what Luke Coleman's doing this year. And then you put that with Cade Anderson, and Thatcher Hurd, Gage Jump. I mean, the question marks we had about LSU are no longer there last year, are no longer there this year. I mean, the staff's ridiculous. They got 10 lefties on that staff. Stephen Milam's been a pleasant surprise, because they were going to put Pearson at second base, and then Milam steps up, and he's been an offensive powerhouse. So he's a shortstop out of New Mexico, so he fits in nicely on the infield. Hayden Travinsky's going to have a big year, but State doesn't have much. I mean, they don't hit particularly well outside of Dakota Jordan. Now that kid can go 415 with 9 home runs. Amani Larry, the second baseman's a former quarterback in high school, which I don't know if you've seen. His sister made a half-court shot in the semifinal of a high school game against Walker High School that won it and made it like top play on ESPN. That's Amani Larry's sister out of Parkway High School in Shreveport. But so it's a talented family. But outside of that, not much. I love Gerangelo Stange, that ambidextrous pitcher. I don't know where they've got him in the rotation, if they do it all this weekend. He may pitch tomorrow. He's going to throw left-handed, but he can throw right-handed just as well, and he's a former shortstop, so, I mean, he can pick it on the mound, and he's having a good year for him this year. So, Mississippi State, they're okay. I like Chris Lemonis because he's the only national champion in Mississippi State in any sport.
Yeah.
Chris Lemonis brought it to him in 2021. So, love the coach. Dakota Jordan's for real. And if they don't have Nate Dome, they're going to have a tough time.
Yeah, St. just going to go on Sunday. That's everybody's looking forward to that again. He was fun to watch here last year until the game kind of got going. But he is impressive. What have you made, if anything, of I hesitate to use the word struggles for LSU's offense because, I mean, they're hitting over 300 and they have plenty of talent in the lineup. I think we all expect them to turn it on at some point. But what have you made for the start, I guess I'll say, for LSU's lineup so far?
I think the main thing, and it's actually a good thing, is Jay Johnson's been mixing guys in there. I mean, how many people has he put in the lineup so far? 1, 2, 3, probably like almost 20 players.
They haven't had the same lineup yet.
Around. Yeah, so see, I mean, and that's a good thing before conference because you get a lot of guys, a lot of action. You're going to need some guys at some point that you don't expect because some people are going to get hurt. And you find guys like Stephen Milam who you wouldn't have penciled in to start the season, but he gets the chance to get in there. He does some damage in the first game he played, and then he gets a second chance, and then here he goes off and running. He's leading that entire group by 50 points on the average. So you get to find out some things about guys. And now I think you'll see the lineup become a little more consistent when the conference starts. I'm not worried about the offense. They were number one in the country last year, so I mean they might be suffering by comparison a little bit. Tommy White's in that junior season where he's going to get drafted or supposedly supposed to get drafted real high. That was my junior year. I sat on 6 home runs for most of the year, ended up with 18. So once you feel like the focus comes off of you, so Tommy White feels like the weight of the world's on his shoulders to start the season. Once the season gets going and it becomes more about the team and maybe they're vying for a SEC championship, then Tommy White will get hot and then he'll end up with 18, 20 home runs as well. So not worried about that. Jared Jones is for real. He's going to hit 20 bombs, as will Travinsky. Again, the main thing for LSU is just staying healthy.
All righty, they get it underway tonight. We're about half an hour away from first pitch over there in Starkville. Todd, we appreciate the time, appreciate the insight. Thank you. We'll have to do it again.
Okay, thanks, man.
Absolutely. Todd Walker, former LSU great, now the SEC Network, giving us a preview of opening weekend here in the Southeastern Conference in baseball. 3 ranked-unranked matchups. That A&M Florida series is going to be one to absolutely keep an eye on. And, obviously we'll have a keen eye on LSU and Mississippi State, but Tennessee and Alabama intrigues me too because I'll say this about Alabama. It feels like every year in the pre-conference there's some hype surrounding them. I think they're definitely better on the mound than they have been. But every year when they have that hype surrounding them in the preseason, they get into conference play and they really hit a lull. I want to see if even last year, and that team went to a super regional. Even last year's Alabama team did that. And they were a really veteran club. And it helped. It hurt them that they had a bunch of injuries. But they're healthy right now. They have a heck of a test against Tennessee, but they have it at home. Can they go out there and pull up and upset and announce themselves to the SEC this weekend? That's something that I really want to see. All right, we're going to grab a break, come back on the other side. We'll flip it back to LSU-Mississippi State. We'll really give you our final thoughts of prediction and whatnot. We'll have time for some Ask Us at the end of the show, too. So go ahead and get questions in if you want to. You can put them in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat. You can tweet them at me, at Musso Matthew. Just any way you want to get your questions in, ask us anything here. We'll wrap up the show with that. Final thoughts on LSU-Mississippi State next here on AFR.
We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit. Go to firstsouthland.com. If you're thinking of buying land, go to firstsouthland.com. They're the best. First South Farm Credit. They've been in business since 1916. You've heard our buddy Ben McDonald talk about his experience. Ben's got some hunting property in Mississippi. Finance that land through First South Farm Credit. It doesn't matter if you live in Houma and you want to buy land in Mississippi, or if you live in Baton Rouge and you want to buy land in Zachary, if you live in Monroe and you want to buy land in Alexandria, or wherever it may be, in Louisiana or any of the 48 contiguous states, First South Farm Credit can help you buy land. That recreational property, maybe your hunting property, if it's the property to buy to build your dream home, or if it's 1,000 acres for agriculture, First South Farm Credit should be your first call. Go to the website at firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com. One more time, firstsouthland.com.
AFR.
Brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. You know where to find them, but make sure that you're checking them out online and on Facebook. This is one of the things that I always tell you. If you're wondering what they have, what the selection's like, what's new over at Clegg's, they do a great job every day when they get new shipments in of posting their new shipments that they get, so you know what they have, what their inventory is looking like at all the different stores. Now, I want to remind you of this. They have some great weed-killing products. So Musso isn't a big fan of this. Sorry, bro. I had to. Hey. But there are products that they have to treat your lawn now before your grass starts to regrow, to take care of weeds now. They got it at Clegg's Nursery. Ask about it. Buy local, shop local, Clegg's Nursery.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade, time to slip away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me, like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Always a pleasure to tell you about our friends at the Williamson Eye Center. Check them out online at williamsoneye.com. They've got locations all over the greater Baton Rouge area. On the Baton Rouge General Campus, you turn off a Bluebonnet onto Picardy, you make that right. And then right there at the stop sign, the building on the right, the first 2 floors, that's the Williamson Eye Center. State-of-the-art dry eye center, and it's full service. Of course, they have their state-of-the-art surgery center there where you can have your LASIK or whatever surgical procedure you're having. But they have your standard annual eye exam as well at the Williamson Eye Center. Learn more at williamsoneye.com. The thing I tell you every day is take the advice that I was given and change your life. To give yourself the gift of sight is absolutely incredible. If you're someone like me who spent your life with contacts or glasses, there is a way to be done with it forever. williamsoneye.com. Go see Dr. Blake Williamson for that free consultation. 924-2020, 924-2020, or williamsoneye.com for the Williamson Eye Center.
All right. Coming down the home stretch here on a Friday edition of AFR. Coming down the home stretch of the week here on AFR. LSU, we're less than half an hour away from first pitch. They open up conference play tonight at Mississippi State. Want to wrap up, begin to wrap up the show with some final thoughts on that series, some matchups that I think are key that I'm going to be watching and give you a series prediction. If you haven't already, go subscribe to the Musso at the Box YouTube channel. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app as well. Like and share, all that stuff. Greatly, greatly appreciated. So in the first segment of the hour, we were kind of talking a little bit about how Mississippi State started out slow. They went and got on their run, and how they're kind of the inverse of last year's team, where they're pitching the ball much better. They're fielding the ball much better, but the offense is lacking. Ultimately, this team is going to want to play low-scoring games. The question is, do they have the depth on the mound? And I think given some of LSU's quote-unquote struggles early in the season at the plate, you could see some lower-scoring games this weekend. But the question is, does Mississippi State have the depth on the mound to keep up with LSU? We know LSU has the depth on the mound this year. When you look at tonight's game specifically, you're looking at Luke Holman taking on Evan Sierre. And Evan Sierre isn't a bad pitcher by any stretch of the imagination. Like, he'll run it up there low 90s. Maybe you'll see a 94, 95 every now and then. Nothing he throws is straight. Like, everything's going to have movement to it. He's constantly in the zone. He's a guy who has not walked a batter yet this year. The caveat is in 4 appearances, he's only thrown 6 innings. So they haven't extended him. And I would not expect them to extend him tonight. With LSU having Luke Holman on the bump, who is undefeated, hasn't given up an earned run. Luke Holman has the longest scoreless streak, active scoreless streak, I should say, in the nation right now. He carries that into this game at 24 innings. You have a massive advantage on the mound. Massive advantage on the mound in this game tonight. And I look for LSU to absolutely exploit that. When looking at, does Mississippi State have the depth to keep up with LSU pitching-wise? I mean, I can sit here and I can look at Brooks Auger. I can look at Gavin Black. I can look at Tyler Davis. I can look at Tyson Harding, Cam Schuelke. Those are the guys they've used most out of the bullpen, that they've relied on most. How many was that I give you? Auger, Davis, Black, Schuelke, Hardin. That's 5 guys. Of those 5 guys, 4 of them have opposing batting averages against of 300 or above. So while they've not walked guys, while they've been in the zone, the stuff has a tendency to get flat on them, and you can hit them. There is opportunity to hit and score against this Mississippi State bullpen. Even though the ERA is low, the batting average against tells you that there is. When you look at a matchup like tonight, where they're probably not, I say probably not because I don't know for sure, but they're probably not going to extend Evan Sierra because he's averaging, a little over an inning per appearance. They're going to voluntarily get you into that bullpen. LSU has a massive advantage. I think they should win the ball game tonight. So that's something I'm watching, obviously, all weekend is how LSU performs against this Mississippi State bullpen. The other thing is State has been really, really good in the starting rotation. Like, you heard us talking about Jurangelo Sanctia with Todd Walker there in the last segment. He's been awesome. When we talked with Robbie Falk yesterday, Robbie said the main thing there is the control's better this year, especially from the left side. And, he's going to throw 96 to 97 from the right side, 93 to 94 from the left side. He's a freak. Like, it's incredible. LSU beat him up pretty good last year. They lost that game, but they beat him up pretty good last year. He's much more consistent, much more in control of himself and his stuff this year. And it's a weird look, man. It's a weird look to face a pitcher that can, throw effectively with both hands. It's just weird. And Cal Steven is their Saturday guy. He's had one bad outing. Outside of that, he's been awesome. He was Purdue's Friday night guy last year, so he transferred in. He was the first sophomore, I think it was the first sophomore to be the opening day starter in Purdue's history, their entire history of their program. So he's got plenty good enough stuff. It's a nice little slider to go along with a low 90s fastball. Again, kind of like Sierra. He can run it up there, 94, 95, but it's mainly going to stay 91, 93. But he mixes that slider in very well. And as a sophomore on Friday nights at Purdue, was 6-2 last year, was the opening day, the home opener, and the conference opening starter. So they leaned on him a lot. So he's good. So I look at that and I say, all right, you catch a break. Like, you catch a break not having to face Nate Dome tonight. Nate Dome was rolling. Like, he was awesome to start this season for Mississippi State, and you wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can get back this year because you just don't want to see a talented pitcher like that, a talented kid like that, suffer through injuries. It's the worst part of the game. But you catch a big break. So this looks a lot like last year, where, do you remember? Mississippi State pitched off last year. They held their, quote-unquote Friday night ace for Game 2 to face Ty Floyd because they knew they weren't going to beat Paul Skeens anyway. They were going to try to get one. And LSU bludgeoned them on Friday night behind Skeens. They ruled them, and then LSU proceeded to lose that series. They played a hard-fought game on that Saturday against the ace, but Cade Smith, I think is who it was, but he held LSU's offense down. LSU had a lead late in the game, but he held LSU's offense down, and the bullpen ultimately gave the lead up. Like, Ty Floyd pitched great. And then the marathon of just, was it 14-13 or whatever on Sunday, and you got outslugged. You have to avoid that this year. And I think LSU can because of the depth of the pitching staff. That is their greatest advantage. You should win tonight against Evan Sierra. And if you do that, can you win one more game this weekend out of 2 chances behind either Gage Jump or Thatcher Hurd? You have to like your chances. Like, that's the difference, is the starting pitching for LSU is just so far and away more complete this year, at this point in the season, I should say, than it was last year. And that's what's going to give them such an advantage over the majority of teams they play. Like, Arkansas's got 3 starters. Florida, not so much. Cade Fisher's really struggled on Friday nights, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself there. But like, you're going to face teams that have 3 starters, but the majority of them don't. You do right now. That's huge. It's a massive advantage this weekend. It's going to be a massive advantage for you throughout. And ultimately, it's the reason I like LSU in the series. Because I'll be honest, I think LSU takes 2 out of 3. I don't think they go there and get a sweep. Here's why. Because I think either Steven or Sanctia, and who knows, maybe it's Evan Sierra. Maybe he pitches out over his skis, pitches up to the competition. It's a Friday night. They're going to have a packed house at Dudy Noble. I don't care how Mississippi State's season is going. They're going to pack that building, especially with LSU in town. They're going to get loud. They're going to throw a party, and it's going to be a really tough atmosphere to go play and win baseball games in. And they still have talented players. It's Mississippi State. One of these guys, and I think it's either Steven or Sanctia, just given the inconsistency of LSU's lineup so far this season, I think one of those starters, with how well they've pitched, can shut LSU down and Mississippi State can win a ball game. I don't know, again, with the depth, if they can keep up. I don't think that they can. That's why I like LSU. So I think behind Jump and or Hurd, you can get one more because I think you win behind Luke Holman tonight. So give me LSU 2 out of 3. Another matchup that I will point out here before we go to break and close out the show. We talked about State's offense, and they haven't been great. And we talked about it with Todd Walker. We talked about it with Robbie Falk yesterday. Dakota Jordan has been the team. Like, if it was not for Charlie Condon being an absolute eater of worlds in Athens, Georgia, Dakota Jordan would lead the SEC in damn near every offensive category. He's second in home runs. He's second in slugging. He's second in RBI. Like, he's fourth in average. He has been awesome. He's been awesome all his entire career at Mississippi State. He's great. They have not had any protection around him. Hunter Hines is struggling. Now, you respect Hunter Hines because you know what he is. Kid hit 22 homers last year. It's his money year. He's one of the best hitters in the SEC. He's just off to a slower start, specifically in the power. He's going to break out, and you just hope it's not this weekend against you. And if it's not, they're going to lack in protection for Dakota Jordan throughout this series. It's something that Robbie Falk talked about with us yesterday. In the pre-conference, teams were already starting to intentionally walk Dakota Jordan because they didn't fear who was behind him. We'll see if LSU takes that approach. I think it would have to be a certain situation in the game, obviously, for them to take that approach because their pitching staff has just been so dominant. They believe they can go get anybody out right now, and they should believe that. So you really circle him and say, okay, number 42 is not going to beat us. And when you look at the quote-unquote struggles that State has had offensively, it's kind of changed their philosophy a little bit. Mississippi State has hit 15 home runs this year in 18 games. Dakota Jordan has 9 of them. Armani Larry is the only other player who has multiple home runs. He has 2. Everybody else has 1, if any. So they're not running the ball out of the yard. And for that reason, they've shifted to a little bit of more small ball. Mississippi State leads the Southeastern Conference in sacrifice bunts so far this season. So for LSU, you have to keep the leadoff man off base in this series. Hamper them in any way you can from wanting to lay down bunts because it appears it's been a very much a get them on, get them over, get them in, scratch it across when you can type approach from Mississippi State here early in the season as they get their lineup in order and the talented guys they have until they start hitting. So for LSU, keep the leadoff man off base. You do that, you should have a lot of success on the mound because it will hamper them playing the small ball that they've played early in the season. So give me LSU 2 out of 3 to win the series. I do think State finds a way to get 1 here, and LSU off to a 2-1 start in the SEC. We'll recap it for you on Musso at the Box for sure after the series is over. That'll be Sunday night. So get subscribed up, like I said, to the YouTube channel or on your favorite podcast app, and we'll have a recap for you here on AFR. We're going to grab a break, come back, close out hour number 3, close out the week here on AFR with a little bit of Ask Us. So get your questions in by U40 YouTube chat or tweet them at me at Musso Matthew. That's next here on AFR, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, do what injured people in Louisiana have done for more than 30 years. Call Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. 888-8888. It's all 8s. 888-8888. I don't even need to give you the area code because no matter where you are in the state, it doesn't matter. Just dial 888-8888 for Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. Gordon does an awesome job, man. He's a great person. They've been so invested in our communities with all the charitable and service work that they do. They give back into the communities that they represent, no matter what time of year. If it's the bike giveaway for kids around Christmas time, if it's the laptop giveaway around back to school time, if it's the charitable work they do during October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, they're always involved in the community. We tell you all the time, of course, about the G Team and what Gordon's done with NIL and the opportunities that he's afforded student athletes. Just a great, great community partner. If you've been injured, you need representation, go to getgordon.com. That's getgordon.com. Get Gordon and get it done.
Bayou Ford has $7,500 off MSRP on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks. $7,500 off plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
It's the details that make the difference between good enough and simply the best. At Skag Power Equipment, the difference is in designing lawnmowers with your convenience and comfort in mind. At Skag, we believe that quality and substance matter, and that you'll appreciate the attention to detail and craftsmanship we put into every single product. Thick steel and heavy-duty components provide you with unmatched reliability and
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Brought to you by Shawbills Tire and Auto Service, ShawbillsTire.com. 18 locations in South Louisiana. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Bumper-to-bumper auto service and name brand tires at wholesale prices. They will always find a way to get you the best possible price for the best possible tires on the road. That's what they do at Shawbills. And when they get you in by selling you the best tires at the cheapest price possible, they're going to treat you like family, and they're going to treat you so good you're going to keep coming back year after year after year every time you need anything for your vehicle. Tires rotated, oil changed, check engine light on, brakes squeaking, whatever's wrong with your vehicle, bring it to Shawbills. Let them give it the once-over, and you can always schedule online, so it's convenient. ShawbillsTire.com. Find the location nearest you at ShawbillsTire.com. Shop tires online at ShawbillsTire.com. Be sure to ask about the Shawbills credit card as well, because you can save $50 off your first purchase when you use the Shawbills credit card only at Shawbills.
All right, wrapping up the week here on AFR, filling in for Scone since Tuesday, I guess. Yeah, since Tuesday. So it's been a great 4 days. Appreciate everybody following along. Enjoyed all the interaction all throughout the week. Scone's back on Monday. So you'll have a regularly scheduled AFR really week, I guess kind of for the foreseeable future as well. So he'll be back on Monday. He was in New York City at a sports media summit. So it was a work deal for Scone this past week. So back on Monday to your regularly scheduled program. He'll recap everything, man. Of course, the LSU-Mississippi State series. Will know LSU's opponent and whatnot in the NIT at that point too. So that'll be great. We'll have that to talk about. And LSU will be getting set to return to the practice field to keep spring practice going out there on Ponderosa. So that'll be great too. Edward O in the chat says he took under 11.5 tonight in LSU State. Yeah, sure. I like that. Yeah, I mean, look, man, you got to love taking an under right now with Luke Holman on the bump. I mean, he's done nothing to give you any inclination that he won't, continue rolling in conference play. It'll obviously be a step up in competition, but State's lineup has struggled. LSU's lineup has had a few quote-unquote struggles early in the season. So, yeah, sure. 11.5 feels kind of high. I know there's no Nate Dome, but got a chance against that State bullpen, so sure. Live Musso at the Box tonight, immediately after the 27th out. So I will have probably had a few beers by that point, and we'll talk about the game and how it ended, and look forward to Saturday as well. So y'all join me for that. Immediately after the last out in LSU-Mississippi State, we'll go live on the Musso at the Box YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing many of you there. And that's going to wrap it up for today and the week. Thank you to Grant. Thank you to Paul. Thank you to Beck. Thank you to Alondra for also filling in production-wise this weekend. It's a giant help, so that's greatly appreciated. We will see you on Monday for AFR.
AFR.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.